And that's what we said. As long as we get it.
5% stress. So the first thing to get going, tell the person next to you one thing that you are thankful for. We're going to start with thankfulness. Turn off. What's one thing you are thankful for? Okay, 3, 2, and 1. I'm trying to change how I start my morning with my kiddos, and I'm really wanting them, so they come in oftentimes with a lot of trauma from home, a lot of stuff that's going on at home, that they come into our classrooms and they don't come in with a great start. I think you have those kids that come in and you already know it's going to be a bad day. You already can see it on their faces. They tell us with their body language what they've just come from. And so I'm trying to be more cognizant of that as we think of our social emotional needs of our students. So what I'm trying to do every day and trying to model with even teachers is to start our day with what we're grateful for or what we're thankful for. Getting that mindset to shift from what's bad to what's good and what I can, based on my circumstances, be thankful for. So I'm really trying to have that be a routine where I'm specifically asking teachers and students to think of what they are thankful for. And sometimes that's hard for them. Some of them look and go, nothing. But when you have everybody sharing, maybe that will help them think of what they are really thankful for, considering that they're in chaos and trauma at home. So that's one thing that I'm going to start to do. I always want to start my session with a learner objective. So my turn, I can write an all about book or an informative paragraph by researching, annotating, and taking notes. Your turn. Read, please.
I can write an all about book or an informative paragraph by researching, annotating, and taking notes.
Very good. We're going to come back at the end. So my bell ringer is always to start with a learner objective, my I can statement. And then at the end of my writing time, my reading time, we're going to come back and revisit it. That's my exit strategy. And let's review our target for the day and see how we get. So very simple, start my lesson with an I can statement, end my lesson with an I can statement and a reflection. That's how I do my lessons all the time. Number 1, they need to know what their target is. Number 2, we need to close the learning loop before we go on to another subject. And also it's a little bit of an informal assessment to ask kids to repeat the I can, to talk about what we got there, and also what did they learn or what did they struggle with. So that's something else that I would like to lead my end of my career. The one thing that's hard for us to do as teachers is to get to that exit strategy, and also to be very intentional how you use your I can statement. It's not there just as a hoop to go through, but it's there on the board for students to say this is your learning target. So really important to have that up as well. So we're going to talk about the why of the informative paragraph, which is really the performance stuff they have to do in the state of Oregon. We're going to get a little organized. We're going to talk about what foundations they need to have. And get to that paragraph, and then talk a little bit about essay. We're really not going to get to the essay today. So I don't think I've given you guys have I shown you the 3-paper how to organize their essay? Have I done that with you guys yet? Does that sound familiar? Then I haven't, and I want to do that, because that will be one thing that you'll want to do, because you've got to get them to write a lot of paragraphs, but you've got to get them to write that essay. So I want to show you how I break up the 3 pieces of paper so that they organize their thinking before they actually write their essay. So that's going to be what we'll do today too. So I'll get that in. And then exit strategy 3, 2, 1, 3 new learnings, 2 questions that you might have, 1 next step, that kind of thing we're going to do. So that's our agenda for the day. To start off, we're just going to really talk about, I'm going to skip this for time. So here's our why. Here's an example of a 3rd grade performance task. You guys have all seen this, correct? You see what they look like. So when you look at what we have to do, tell your partner, just brainstorm, what are going to be some barriers for students in order for them, here's a focus activity. Look at this. What are going to be some of the barriers for students? The barriers that are going to help them, that are not going to help them be successful. So you're thinking of, based on this performance task that they might get, what's going to be a problem for students? Talk to your partner, your team. Okay, are you looking at this, you guys? All right, so let's just share a few things, guys. What are some barriers? What are going to be some barriers for students to be able to be successful on this? What's one thing? Let's just throw some ideas out.
It doesn't give me part one.
It doesn't give me part one on here, so I know there's a part two. So where's part one, and what is part one? Part one remembers all the reading part of the assessment. Part one is all the computer adapted questions on the reading side. Here's the thing that I'm really surprised about too, and maybe you guys know more. Has anyone stopped and actually given you some, other than the ESD, has given you some real extensive PD on what the Smarter Balance questions are, how much they?
No.
Yeah.
We have our test administrator, which is also the second and third grade teacher and Title I teacher, and she went over that with us this year. And she showed us where we could go to get like questions, not just maybe the practice test on for the state bar, but to expose them more to the wording and help them learn how to take the test and not be so scared when they come to the.
I'm just, how many years now we've been at Smarter Balance, and I'm surprised again, still, I shouldn't be, but I am, at how little PD you guys have been given to really understand the test that you need to teach to. How do we teach to a test that we don't know? How do we, I mean, I could spend an hour today with you guys on just the Smarter Balance, and maybe that's a need that you guys have right now, is what is this test and what do I need to prepare my kids for? I'm willing to be flexible here and give you what you need. Do you even know that the question types that are being asked? Do you know how much those questions are, how much they're worth? Do you know what the short constructed responses they might get on the reading side? Do you know what the expectation is on the performance task and writing? There's so many questions, and yet how can you help your kids with that if you don't know the test? So I love it, by the way. So you're gonna find, I know it and I love it, but I wonder if the reason we don't like it is because we just don't know what we don't know about it. But if you can see the connections, I've spent many years just working at the state level, writing, scoring, being a content reviewer, writing questions for both the reading side and the writing side, and scoring those. I have brought all of my learning into my classroom. So my classroom is all about the Smarter Balance. It is teaching the test, because if it's a good test, we should teach to it. If it's a bad test, no. But you guys, we teach to a test all year long, right? So I'm not sure that we can really validly use that excuse of we're teaching the test. Yes, we should. So my questions on the reading side mirror the questions on Smarter Balance. I don't use the wonders questions or the journey questions. Some of them I try to use the questions that they're going to be asked on the Smarter Balance. So there's no fear. There's no fear. So I think maybe I need to give you a little bit of background information on that. Would that be helpful, you guys? I think that might be helpful just to show you, oh my gosh, there's a lot of layers to this. And what do my kids need to do in order to be successful on that Smarter Balance assessment? Our kids don't see validity to that test. It gets worse when they get in secondary, guys. They see no validity to it. So how do we change that? It's not their fault, it's ours. My kids know that is an extension of their learning. And what they do on that assessment is what I'm asking them to do all year long, really important. And I don't want them to be frightened of the kind of questions they're going to get. I have to show them those questions, because oftentimes I tell them, you guys aren't poor readers, you're poor readers of questions, and I haven't given you a strategy to really attack that. So there's a lot of layers that we can do all year long. They're going to help them with my assessment. They're going to help them with your assessments, but also to get them prepared for the Smarter Balance. And oftentimes we teachers just administer it and that's it. And then we wonder why they don't do well. So I promise, I think I might spend some time on it today because I think that's really important, especially because it's time, right? To take a week to do some test taking strategies and to prep them for what they need to do on the Smarter Balance. I think that might be a really good idea. Did you guys notice how many words are here?
Way too many.
This is third grade, right? So if I don't show them some examples, these are all released items. How many of you have actually taken the time to actually show them a released item? Need to, they need to, right? They need to see what it looks like and to break it down as well. You need to say, hey guys, this is just your checklist. This is what you need to have. You need to kind of, part 2 is the writing, part 1 is the reading. So it's again, even being very specific about part 1 being questions, it's the research. What they have to do on the reading side versus part 2 is the writing side. And then in part 1, they're doing some research. So again, I don't think we're telling them enough about what they need to do. So that's going to be really important. Here's the why to writing paragraphs, an essay. This is our why, to get them ready for this prompt. We also have to teach them how to attack this and how to read the prompt, because oftentimes, again, they don't know what they're being asked. And if you have some struggling readers in third grade, you can do it. And there's no accommodations for them, right? Unless it's written in their IEP, it's just there's no accommodations for them, which is really hard. This is the why. We've got to give them practice, show them examples, and make sure that they understand. So let's stop right here and let me show you an example of what you want to start to begin with before you actually get on here. We'll come back to this in a minute. So would you, in your packet, get out the handout that says explanatory prompts, please. And thank you for being here. I'm Yolanda Westerberg. I have been in education for 36 years. I've worked at the K-12 level, have been a literacy specialist, an interventionist. I've just kind of done it all. And so now I get to then now be here and teach you, but I'm just going to tell you guys something. I was a stinky writing teacher. Loved reading, but writing, it took me a lot of years and a lot of practice to get better at teaching writing. And at my 36th year, I kind of feel like now I'm on a roll, I've got some good things, but I've never done learning. So just to let you know, I struggled with teaching writing, and until I did the 12-step program, right? Denial, anchor, ignore, cry, all those things before I said, okay, I need help. Went on a journey, really started with Step Up to Writing, which is absolutely my favorite as a bank of strategies. I don't use everything, but I use a lot of their strategies. It's not a curriculum, it's a bank of strategies. I was a national trainer for Step Up to Writing, and then I quit doing that because I didn't just want to teach Step Up to Writing. There were other things that we needed to do. So I consult and I train in a lot of different areas, but you'll see a lot of Step Up to Writing strategies that I just wouldn't teach writing without. So that's kind of my background. I'm a grandma of 6 beautiful grandkids whom I love dearly, and a husband too, by the way. But he's not my center my universe right now. My kids. My grandkids, they are, but don't tell them. Okay, so let's start with this. Let me kind of escape this and get into my dot camera. We're going to, one strategy that you need to start practicing right away is, is your tap plus app. So get out a big sticky note, please, not pink, just another color. And I'm going to define what this strategy is. And I do this all year, at least once a week I give them one. Okay, so I don't have to do it all. I'm just really teaching them how to read the prompt. Okay, that's all I'm doing. So big sticky note. We're going to employ, and I do one a week. I grab the Smarter Balances interims. I just go and grab them wherever I can. Okay, so we're going to go T equals tap plus F. This is my strategy to read the question so I know exactly what I need my students to do. Okay, tap plus F. So T is the topic. What am I writing about? Okay, and I'm going to have them underline that. So there's going to be some annotating here. I want you guys to know that I do it on paper first, then I have to teach them how to transfer to the computer and actually use a sticky note to tell me what their tap plus F is. So first of all, they do it on paper, but then as they get better at that, then I give them a sticky note, and then they have to read something on one of the performance tests on the computer and take a sticky note and write T equals what's your topic, what's your A, what's your P, what's your F. Okay, so the next one is your A. A stands for audience. Who are you writing to? So this is really important. The teacher is not the audience. In most of these, they have to have a specific audience. I circle it. Now, sometimes you guys, a prompt will not have an audience. So then they have to kind of infer who might an audience be, and not so much teacher, like a scientist, a principal, a business owner, a mom, another child. You see, it's your audience. Now, as a scorer, you guys, when they're writing, I need to be able to see who they're writing to in some way. So I'm looking for who their audience is. And if there's no clear audience, I can't score them high in that category. So we need to know who you're writing to. You're writing to your mom, you're writing to a sister. What you pick is going to be different depending on who your audience is. We have our P, which stands for purpose. And purpose is to determine what kind of writing I'm doing. So I'm having them zigzag all the words that help me know what kind of writing it is. Like, is it narrative? Is it informative? Or is it an opinion? So I'm looking for words that are going to help me know what kind of writing it is. Okay, and then it's tap plus F. F, I'm going to back box, and this equals the format. What does it look like? Is it a letter? Is it an essay? Is it a brochure? If you're doing a brief write, it's a paragraph. So knowing the format, what it needs to look like is really, really important. Okay, so tap plus F. Anybody use tap plus F? Oh, good, 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 good. Okay, so that's the strategy. I'm going to start to teach them this. If you haven't taught them this, you probably need to. So you can start with some little ones, but you're going to want to actually go back to the big one as well. So look at this first one. I've given you 6 to do. I'll do one with you, and then I'm going to have you with your partner do the second one. So here's an example of a prompt. Your teacher is creating a bulletin board display in the school library to show what your class has learned about different types of jobs. You decide to write an informational article that is several paragraphs long on astronauts. Other students, teachers, and parents will read your article. Now, this is a little bit deceiving because now we got to look for T, where it's our topic. So initially, kids are going to say it's about what? Different types of jobs for our topic, but we're writing really about what? Astronauts. So I'm going to underline astronauts and even put a T. We're not writing about different types of jobs. We're writing about an astronaut. Do you see how now that could be confusing if they don't break this down and read it carefully? Really important. There's my T. Okay, my audience. Who am I writing to? So again, other students. So I'm going to circle students, teachers, and parents. There's my audience. Okay, so I've circled my audience. I'm writing to students, teachers, and parents. Now, here's what I make my kids do. If there's no explicit audience, I'll say, well, over here, who do you think you might be writing to? So they actually have to still tell me their audience in the on the margin. Okay, so now I'm looking for words that are going to help me know what type of writing this is. Okay, so you decide to write, oh, an informational. Okay, that's right there is going to help me. That is several paragraphs long, so I know that an informational has paragraphs. That's another word that's going to help me. An article oftentimes is another word that might help me. So this is my P, but I make them say, what kind of writing is this? This is informative. Okay, that's informative. There's my purpose. And then format, what does it need to look like? I have to box it. What does it need? It has to be what? It's an article that is what?
Several paragraphs.
So I'm going to box article that is several paragraphs long. So there's my F right there. It's an article that is several paragraphs long. So you see what I've just done there? I've made them read this through in order to tell me where their T is, where their A is, what words help me know what kind of writing it is, and then format what it needs to look like. Okay, with your partner, do number 2. With your partner, think you do number 2. Your fourth grade student. I also have a page of narrative prompts and also opinion prompts, so I could probably get those sent to you, so you guys have some examples. Would that be helpful to have some? Because when I'm in explanatory writing, I go over the prompts. When I'm in narrative, I do narrative. When I'm in opinion, I do opinion. So I try to give them a little bit of each, because you don't know what they're going to get. What was your important things? Was your oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes.
It's okay. I was. Yeah, they got cookies. Warm up in your writing. Yeah. So that's what
Okay, guys, up here, let's check yours with mine and see if we're right. Now, again, I'm going to be modeling. You guys remember your gradual release of responsibility. I do, we do, you all do, Then I'm going to, you do is when I assess them to see if they've got it. So lots of I do's and we do's, because you're going to want them to practice this and then apply it to their performance task. So look at what you got. So the topic is most important things that they should know, plus why she or should know them. So there's really two things that they have to address in their topic. So there's two things here. Their audience is fourth grade students, right? There's my circle. My purpose, I can underline, I can zigzag paragraph. Oh, the word explaining tells me it's informative. So I know these keywords tell me it's an informative piece of writing. My format is a letter in several paragraphs. I got to tell you, letter writing is a second grade standard, and our high schoolers don't know how to write a letter. You guys are probably going to have to write a letter. So again, that might be something you guys all need to review at third, fourth, and fifth grade is how to write a letter. What does a letter include? Now, here's what you need to know, you guys. I'm not going to score them. I'm not scoring them on the reading side or even on the writing side if it looks like a letter. I'm looking for what's inside the letter. So I'm not really marking them down for the actually incorrect letter formatting, but I got to teach to that for sure. And they need to know that. So again, letter comes up quite a bit. So right now, can your kids write a letter? Turn and talk. What do you think? Have you spent time with them on a letter?
Yeah.
But we're different. But they modeling, and I even had a pause.
Okay, take out a piece of paper because as we go, you want to start making a list of the things that you need to kind of address. Okay, so number one, the first thing that you need to address is how are you making your learning objective meaningful and visible. The learning objective, and you want to make sure that when you use your learning objective, that it's meaningful and what did I just say, you guys?
Visible.
And visual. Thank you. I'm getting so old, you guys. Meaningful and visual. It's a visual or visible, right? Okay, so that's one. Now, you guys, now I'm just showing you an informal outline. So just let me tell you, color-wise, I keep all my colors the same. This is not 2-column notes, but this is an informal outline where I start with my green. I then have my key idea, learning objective. And then I teach my kids how to elaborate. And that's my dashes and dots. That's my pink. So I can actually even do with kids, go down the page with my colors. Okay, and I know I gotta get them to do that dot. It might be white. Why? You know, my dot might be white. Okay, so we're gonna do a learning objective. You want to make sure it's meaningful and it's visible to kids. And then my dot might be, well, why would we want to do that? And you could write that and why we do it. So that students know their target. It's really for students to know their target. And it keeps me accountable on the other side of that. Okay, the second thing that we did was we did tap plus F. Okay, so we did that in order for them to understand the prompt. That's the reason we're doing it. Okay, so the dot for this one, you guys, would be at least starting next year, 1 time a week. Just build this into your agenda. If you don't build it into your agenda, guys, it's not going to happen. So once a week, do your SBAC training with them. Once a week, 10 minutes. It doesn't even have to be very long. Now, the first time it's going to take a little bit longer because you're going to have to teach tap plus F. But after that, you guys, it's kind of like my bell ringer. After lunch, we're going to do 10 minutes or 5 minutes on test taking strategies. I don't call it SBAC, I call it test taking strategy. Okay, so tap 1 time a week. Now, the other thing that you're going to want to under this is because of the format, you need to make sure they know how to write a letter. Okay, so that's going to be something for you guys that's going to be really important. What does a letter look like? Okay, that would be something you'd want to do that there as well. So tap plus F. Okay, so you can see those are 2 things to think about, and now you've got them. So turn and talk. What's going to be your plan for tap plus F? What do you think you can do with tap plus F right now, this next week? Go, talk. What are you going to do? What's going to be your goal for tap plus F?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm going to wait right here because I'm going to stop here. I don't want to go back to my camera. I'm trying to figure out what directions. I'm changing kind of directions right off the top here, you guys. I'm going to put this away. All right, let's take out a piece of paper, guys. Another piece of paper. This is going to be SBAC questions. Oh, but I'm sorry. You're gonna need a piece of paper, but I want you to try this. I'm gonna go back to our why. Now here's the transition before we go to the piece of paper that I'm gonna give you and kind of give you some information on Smarter Balance. What I want you guys to do now, we've been practicing all year long on little short structured response notes. At some point, I need to show them these bigger ones because now I have to build reading stamina, writing stamina, and now it's not just a little blurb like you've been practicing, but now it's this whole big thing, and I have to kind of teach them how to do this. Now it's on the screen. So when my kids go to Smarter Balance, you guys, they go with sticky notes. They go with sticky notes. They go with highlighters. They go with writing paper, not templates, but writing paper, so they know what tools they need to use before they actually get on and type. How many of you have seen your kids just go and start typing?
Can we request that that's in the room because my kids aren't allowed to have it in it.
Yeah.
It has to already be in the.
Yeah,
room.
my, all that, here's how I do it, because sometimes we've been told by district personnel, district people that no, kids can't have anything. That's incorrect. That's really not right. Correct. Kids can use anything they want to do their work. They can't take anything with them, but they can have as many resources or tools as they want. So you can't walk in the room with them. So on my table, where they go into the computer lab to do their test, on the table is a pile of sticky notes, a pile of highlighters, a pile of lined paper. All the materials that I've been teaching them how to use are on the table. And guess what we do? We come down 2 weeks before and we practice picking up our supplies and going and sitting down, you guys. So they know exactly what they need to do before the assessment comes in. Now, I can't help them while it's there, but if I've done my job and they know how to use the sticky notes and they know how to use the highlighters and they know how to use the paper, and they know that they have to rough draft on paper first before they can type, I'm telling you guys, success happens. Yes.
Just have a quick question because so our testing coordinator had said that my kids have fully been using the 2 column notes. And so they're really confident in it and they know what to do. But she said that, say it takes them longer than their 2-hour session to complete their performance task, which I'm assuming quite a few of them will. She said that they can keep their 2 column notes in there that they've created. She can keep those until the next session. But anything that she's printed, because they're all, you need to print your performance task, you print your sources, go through highlight, all the things we've been practicing, that she has to shred those in between every single session. So they would have to start completely over on their sources where they've done their TAP plus F and they picked their pieces of evidence that they want to use by the next time they go in. Like, that just seems insane.
That's what we're doing with ours.
At the end, we have to shred, but again, you want to clarify that. I'm not sure that that's.
We brought that up with our testing coordinator, and she said that what you need to do is they need to go into the safe.
Yes.
Until the next session.
Yes. They don't have to shred them.
They have to be locked up, basically.
Yeah.
They can't have them-
Well,
they
that's
can
what
be
we've
locked
always
up.
done before.
Yeah.
it
But
was locked up. She
At the
said no.
end, then they will be shredded.
Yeah, that's what I
would
know.
say, Look, this is the,
Can you call her?
I mean, like, I'd be like, can we clarify
Ask her,
that?
ask a clarifying question and ask her if she wouldn't just please check on that again. Because you
Yeah.
and just say
And she
that.
did,
I
and
think
she
her-
read it to me from her instructions, and it does say in between, it says has to be, I can't remember the wording, but it did sound like in between each session, anything that she had printed had to be gotten rid of.
Is it for the reading or the writing?
The
Because
writing.
I know the reading is different than the writing.
Yeah.
Reading, they have to-
We would probably want to clarify that for sure, because I just keep everything, if it's a 2-dayer, because usually we spread it out into 2 days. Day 1 is all, but here's how I manage it. Day 1 is all the research. Day 2 is the rough draft and the typing. That's how I do it. Day 1 is all the research. Day 2 is the rough draft and the typing. And they have to have their notes from day 1 in order to do day 2. That's the research part of it. So, and then we have them collect everything, and then we collect everything and we shred. But that's how we do it. So you're gonna need to clarify. Okay, so guys, here's why they need a sticky note. They're gonna need more than 1 sticky note. So here's what I do, you guys. I have 2 different colors. I'm even this specific, you guys. They love me and they hate me, right? They have to have 2 different sticky note colors. One is for everything that they need to do with, but when they're annotating and they're looking for evidence, it's pink. So you guys, they have to have pink sticky notes that tells them this is evidence, text-based evidence. So everything that they pull for their writing that has to do with the facts, the evidence, the explaining, those are pink sticky notes. Everything else is a different color so that they know this is where it's at right here. This is the color that's going to give them the 2. Not any other color. This is the color that is the biggest deal. If kids don't have a yellow sentence, they don't get marked down. But if they have a lot of red and it infers a yellow, they get credit for that, you guys. They get credit for that. So this is why this color is so important. So I have a lot of reds, and then I have a different color for something else that I'm doing. So let me grab another color. So grab a different color than pink, you guys, real quick. Because now you guys have to apply. Okay, so now what you're gonna do, if your kids know how to do TAP plus F, now I have to give them an example released item. And you guys, just FYI, the released items that you can find are problematic. That's why they're released. Because there's a problem somewhere in them. So just know that they're not necessarily perfect. And I'm sure you've seen some that went, oh my gosh, this is poorly worded, or there's not enough elaborations. So these go through a lot of different kind of way. I mean, they have to go through the ethics committee. They have to go, they get it's done with a pilot group, and then the kids have, if 90% of them score 0, then it's not the kids' fault, it's the prompt's fault. I mean, there's a lot of things that it goes through in order to keep one, and it's really expensive as well. So they release all the ones that are problems that they'll never use again. And they keep the ones that are the good ones. So just FYI, the ones that are released, usually there's some issue to it. But you're gonna wanna go find some of these. And I have some too, if you don't have access to them. The interims are a good place to go grab them as well. If you are doing the interims with SBAC, would be another place to go. So at some point now in the spring, now they're ready to move to this because they've been doing it all year long, once a week, right? So now they're going to get a sticky note and they're going to put TAP plus F on here. And now you're going to have to write on a sticky note, what's the T? Everybody put TAP plus F on the sticky note, because this is what you want them to do immediately before they even start. Step 1, TAP plus F. Okay, so with your partner, would you read this and on a sticky note, would you write what your TAP plus F is? Remember, I have to tell them this is your checklist. It's going to give you some background information. You need to go to that first section that says your assignment. It's not boxed like this. I do it so that makes their eyes go right to that. But then this is probably might have some more information. Let me blow it up for you. It's kind of hard to see for those in the back. I'm sorry, guys.
It's number 1 on the sheet, right?
Yeah, it's number 1 on the sheet.
Is that better? There you go. Oh, much better. Okay, I need TAP plus F with your partner. See if you can figure out what TAP plus F is. So background information, that first one, I tell them background information, tells you what you need to do to go to your assignment. Okay, now you're writing it on your sticky note. What's the T? What's the A? What's the P? And what's the F? You're actually writing it right on your little sticky note. You're too quiet. Talk to your partner.
That's right.
Here.
It's kind of like the same one I did, but a little bit more, right? Okay, let's see what you got, guys. What's the topic up here, you guys? What's the topic? Astronauts is the topic. It's writing about astronauts. Who's the audience? Students, teachers, and parents. What's the purpose? What are keywords that you zigzag here? Lots, there's quite a few words that tell me what is it narrative. Then I always ask them for the purpose. Is it narrative, informative, or opinion? Everyone? Nice job. What's the format?
Paragraph, several paragraphs long.
Article.
Article. Hmm. And it talks about paragraph, right? Article and paragraph, right? You see how this is not as easy as it looks? Problematic, probably. I'm sure they cleaned this one up. That's why they released it. But nonetheless, it's a great way to do it. They're putting it on that topic. So that's step number one. Okay. They have to do tap plus up. And I'm going to show you in a bit after I go over Smarter Balance. I have a strategy called the Big Six that tells kids here are the steps you have to take in order to get to the final of the performance stats. Here's the thing that I don't want my kids to do. They cannot start typing until they've written their rough draft, non-negotiable. And if they start typing and they haven't done anything else, I can't say anything, but they can see in my little sticky eyes that I'm not happy about that because we've been practicing it all year long. So I'm going to show you my Big Six strategy, but you guys, we have to make sure that they have a strategy on what they need to do before they go on to the next step. So that's going to be really important and making sure that we kind of go through all of those steps as well. So, all right, turn and talk. Why is tap plus app beneficial? And what are you going to do this week with tap plus app? Turn and talk. Why is it beneficial? And what are you going to do?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna use it. Whatever, but we could have tried this first. And then
Yeah, just another way to do that, yeah.
Well, I gotta find it. I know it's somewhere. It's not right in here, but I'll find it for you guys. Good job. I'm gonna stop right here. All right, so get out a piece of paper. This is SBAC questions. Okay, so now we're on our piece of paper, and I'll find it and I'll make sure you guys get it. Maybe a break time. I'll press the break. Okay, on a piece of paper, you guys. Let's write on our piece of paper T equals SBAC questions. So you guys kind of know what to look for them, help to clarify for them. So SBAC questions. And by the way, I've changed how I assess my kids too, based on that. So I oftentimes, such a rebel sometimes. That's not always a good thing, but I just, when I look at the Wonders assessments that are 20 pages long, or Journeys, which is another 5 days to take, I'm just going, okay, what's the benefit of all that? And I understand that there's some purpose for assessing their reading, but I come from the philosophy is that how can I not give them 40 questions, give them less, and still know what they know and don't know? That's what I'm always thinking in my head. So every assessment has about anywhere from about 4 to 6 questions, and that's it, you guys. I don't need 10 vocabulary questions. I don't need 5 questions on what the main idea is, right? If I am consistent, I'm going to do less questions, but those questions are going to be very specific to a standard or a target that I'm teaching. So I'm just not doing 40 questions anymore because it's not helpful for me or for my kids because they hate it. They cry, they don't like it, right? And they don't do well, so they don't see the value of it. So here are the question types. So let's do our first stars question types. So you guys know what you need to kind of be focusing on as you get ready for Smarter Balance. Question type. So the first question type is a multiple choice. So we know those, but some things that you might not know is that it looks like there's usually 4, A, B, C, and D. 1 is the correct answer. You guys, 1 is the correct answer. And the other 3 are what we call plausible answers, meaning they're all from the text. There's no obvious wrong answer. So when I'm doing, if this is the main idea, what's the main idea? Here's how we have to write it, you guys. I have to determine what the main idea is, and then A, C, and D are text-based evidence, or maybe another main idea that is similar. But you guys, all of these other answers are plausible. They come from the text, but they have to pick the correct answer. That is worth 1 point, okay, on the reading side. Hard to write and hard for kids because it's not, they can't eliminate. it's really hard to eliminate the wrong answer because they're all from text. So that's why kids sometimes will even not do well on this, because they'll see a main idea sentence and then they'll see text-based evidence sentences, and it's all kind of all about the text, and so they get confused. So that's one thing you need to think about. Okay, another question that they're going to see is what we call a multi-select. Okay, now there are two types of multi-select questions that they might see. Okay, so one kind of multi-select is whether it's one multiple choice question. It looks like a multiple choice, so it's like one multiple choice question, but instead of, you guys, A, B, C, D, it's going to be A, B, C, D, E, and it'll say what 3 evidence support the main idea. So then they have to go, oh, it's this one, oh, it's this one, and oh, it's this one.
Will it ever say choose all, or does it always give them a number?
Usually give them a number at the elementary level. At the upper level, it doesn't always give them. It'll say circle all the ones that support. But at the elementary, as I see all of them, usually it'll tell them 3 or 2. It'll tell them the number here of how many they have to circle.
Because I know on other things, they'll
Yeah.
say select all, and they're like, I picked one, and then they move on.
No, it'll tell you. That's why they have to read the question. It'll say 3. It'll say choose 3, and then they have to circle 3. You guys, that's worth 1 point. Meaning if they miss one of those, they're in big trouble. That's a 0, right? Okay, now the other multi-select, which your kids are gonna see, is it's a part 1, part 2. So it's a part 1, and then it is followed by a part 2. Okay, now here's that's hard. Usually part 1 is a multiple choice question, you guys, and they have to choose the correct answer. Okay, usually it's what's the main idea, what's the theme. It's all based on a standard, but it's, first of all, part 1 is what's the main idea. Here's an example. Then they come to part 2, and then you're going to see now the multi-select, and then it'll say choose the 3 that support the main idea. Now, here's what's going to be hard for kids. If they get part A wrong, chances are they're going to get what? You guys, I don't want them to be afraid of this. So I'm going to write lots of questions just like this to help them. I'm going to pull questions that I can, question stems that I can, so that they can see. You got to get this right, and then you got to support it with part 2. This is worth 1 point, and then obviously this is worth 1 point. So together, I mean, they're separate, but together they're 2, and they're really connected. So those are multi-select. Okay, so on my assessment, I have 1 multiple choice question, maybe 2, depending on what I'm assessing, and it will have a multi-select question all year long. See, I'm getting them ready for Learner Balance, because that's how they're going to be writing it. So I even do this with my kids all year long. Okay, now they're going to get another kind of question. They're going to get a question in which they call hot text, but I don't know why they call it a hot text, but that's what they call these. And a hot text question is where they have to manipulate the text in some way. So here's an example of a hot text. It might be that they have events, and they have to reorganize those in the correct order. So events might be ordered. Move them around and put them in the right order. That's called a hot text. They might have where they have to highlight a word in a paragraph that is that they give it a definition on. So here's your text, and they have to highlight the word that matches the definition down here. Do you see how they're doing that? And they have to highlight. That's one thing you can see. Okay, so that's another thing. That's another hot text. They might have to. Another thing they might do is just like matching. They might have to match. So anytime they have to manipulate the text, highlight, move things around, is what they call hot text. Now here's one that's really difficult for them. You guys need to know. I showed it to the secondary group, and they were like, "You guys are kidding me." Yes, it's really, really hard. So here you go. It would look like a table or a graph. It looks like this. And then it's got like columns. It looks like that. This is the hardest one, I think, for kids, because it's on all of these. This, by the way, is worth 1 point. Anytime they do this, it's just worth 1 point. Okay. Here is another hot text where they'll have a claim statement, another claim statement, another claim statement, and then they'll say source 1, source 2,
Oh, yeah.
source 3, or all of them, or sometimes they'll even go none of them. Look at this, you guys. And then they have to, okay, in claim 1, did I read that? Did I see that in source 1, 2, 3, all of them or none? And then they have to click that box. Oh, the second claim, I saw that in source 1 and source 2. Oh, this claim, I saw it in all of the sources. Do you see how they have to be readers and be able to read all of the sources? You guys, this is worth 1 point.
Really?
Yes. Yes. Okay, this, and again, for at elementary, you probably won't have all of this. It might be just 3. It's going to be a lot less than at the upper grade level. But they write a sentence and they say, okay, where did you find that sentence at? Where did you find that claim at? That's hard. So again, you've got to make sure you're giving your kids more than one source as well on this. Is that making sense? Okay, so those are just some examples of hot text. The last thing is your short, what I call your short constructed response. This is where you're asking, they're having to write a paragraph, by the way, they're having to write a paragraph that's connected to a skill. So it's going to be something like describe something, or pick the author's purpose and defend it, or add elaborations, or it's going to be a summary, or it's going to be a compare, what are some similarities or what are some differences, or it's going to be cause and effect, what are some reasons for something, or what are the benefits of something, or it's going to be draw a conclusion. It's going to be all those skills that they have to write in a paragraph. You guys, this is worth 2 points. And the big dog here, you guys, is text-based evidence. They have to have a lot of pinks in order for them to get those 2 points. Now, here's the thing you need to know. On the reading side, I'm not looking for writing perfection. I'm looking for evidence to support that skill. So do I want it to look like a beautiful paragraph? Yes, that's classroom expectation, but large scale expectations, we're looking for comprehension. So we're looking for those reds to support the whatever the skill is. This is a big dog. So paragraphs, 1 paragraph, 1 a week. So guys, here's your next goal. Try to get them to write a sentence, a paragraph once a week or once every 2 weeks. Put that on a note. You've got to start getting them to write on a regular basis. I get to the point where if they know how to do it, it's once a week. If they don't, it's once every 2 weeks. But they're writing a paragraph often. All right, so those are the question types. And then you guys have, this is on the reading side. Those are all reading. On the writing side, they have part 1. So I just showed you the questions for the reading side. And now we're on part 1. We're on now the writing side of the assessment. Okay, they say 2 hours, but you guys, they can have longer than that too. I don't know if you've been told that or they've been told that. They can have, that's recommended time. That's not, turn the timer on and you're done at 2 or that's not it either. So we got to make sure we're clear on that. I want them to do it. I got to teach them how to do it in 2 hours, but there's no set rule that after 2 hours you collect everything and they're done. That's not the rule for Smarter Balance. So they have part 1. Part 1 they need to know is the research part of the performance task. This is where they're researching. And so part of researching, it's going to look like reading questions. So they might, again, they're going to have specific questions, a hot text, a multiple choice, a multi-select, maybe even a short constructed response as a part of the research on part 1. Okay, that's part 1. Part 2 is then the performance task. Okay, those are the questions that they're going to be asked. This is that prompt, that long prompt. So those are the questions. All right, while I find my big 6, I want you guys to talk about the questions and talk about where are your strengths and what areas are you like in the ready to benefit, meaning you got to do it. You got to get better at that. So try to talk about the questions and how much more you've learned just in this 15 minutes. Okay, turn and talk.
Because
So
we
you're
read
actually
articles
do
on that,
credits.
and then.
Oh, this so that.
And so, and then it'll have. So they have. Does it come out?
You know,
Good.
but,
And we have to do that. in all of our interviews. That's good. Well, I can, and they have to, I think my kids in my house. They have to do it too. I haven't seen it too much in the little schools. I don't know if they introduced it at all. I don't remember it at all either. My kids right now, I mean, it's article 1, article 2. We gotta start a basic.
And that section.
That would be crap.
What, something for credit.
Well, maybe.
There you go. I try to throw it in.
Talk about what? Oh.
It's like, you know, how much is it?
Like, really go back.
Yes, okay, yes, moving on.
Yeah, and then that's what we're talking about. I can see that. We've got another curriculum. That kind
Okay, let's move on, you guys. Good job. Hopefully you have new learning questions.
I'm sorry, I have a question before you move on.
Yes.
The scoring with the writing and the reading, how do they get that summative score?
Well, you get the reading score, but then you get a writing score. It's not together. So when you go on, and again, maybe and this is the other thing that kind of surprises me a little bit too, as much as I'm surprised at how many teachers do not know what the scores of their students are with their writing. SBAC isn't as good as giving you specifics about what you are doing or not doing, but they actually, if you go onto the Smarter Balance, like the Tide, and it shows the, every grade level and the scores, it actually gives you a tab for reading, but if you scroll to the right, it'll actually give you your writing scores. But this is how they do it, is by genre. So it'll say narrative, and then it'll tell you, are you below, approaching, at, or above? It'll actually give you these little symbols that will tell you where your kids are overall at 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And then if you go over, it'll say informative, and it'll tell you below, approaching, at grade level. It'll give you symbols, and then it'll have opinion. So it'll tell you exactly where you are. And so it's a separate tab from the reading tab. So again, your coordinator should know, because that's where you go to get all your information. But you guys, you need to know, because you need to get on there and say, okay, what are my kids doing well, and what are my kids struggling with? But it'll tell you, it doesn't give you any specifics, but it'll tell you below, at, or above on all 3 kinds of writing. Now in your state, do they take out narrative writing for you guys?
They said that's not an option.
Okay, that's what I was noticing, because we've been getting scores back and the narrative.
I teach second, and we don't have standards tests, but we have to put stuff in their Q files, and we're told second grade is narrative writing.
Just
Well-
this year, she said. I mean, there has been in the past, but she said this year she got told it was either opinion or informative.
Yeah, that's what I know. For now, in our state, it's all 3. We didn't take out the narrative, which I'm surprised why narrative is being taken out in some states. I don't understand that, because narrative is so important. And how do we know how well they could write a narrative if we don't assess it? I guess I would still teach that in my own classroom. But I guess informative opinion, here's what worries me about that. If that's what they're being assessed, that's what we teach. So we sometimes will leave out the other one because, we're teaching to what the test is. So it's informative opinion, and it's one of those. In our state, it's all 3, and they get 2 of them, not just 1. But they never know which 2 they're going to get. That's the other thing that's, each state is a little bit different, you guys. So it sounds like they get 1 of the 2 correct in Oregon. And every state gets to change and modify how they do it. But yeah, I think it's either informative or opinion. So those two I would definitely focus on, but you guys, I still wouldn't ignore narrative.
I know, I was thinking maybe just do the COVID, like they're backing off a little bit and like, hey, let's just try to,
Go slowly.
yeah, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like it in the state of Montana, where I do most of my work, they don't even have to do the performance task. They're doing brief writes, which is way better, I think, because then kids only have to produce a paragraph. However, that's hard because they might get an informative paragraph, they might get a body paragraph, they might get a conclusion paragraph on a draft that's already given to them. So it's a little bit harder, but they don't have to write as much. So there's kind of some value of that as well. So that's something to think about as well. Okay, so you guys, one of the things that we have to do is we have to teach them. Let's take out, we can use and just continue this because this is what I want you guys to kind of be thinking about. So I'll grab another piece of paper, continue on with the questions. And I can't find my big six right off the bat, which is usually what happens when somebody asks me for something, I can never find it. Has that anybody happen for you? Like, that's so frustrating. I know it, and when I don't want it, it pops up, but when I want it, it takes me 2 hours to find it. So let's go with a piece of paper because I want to kind of give you a somewhat of a draft of what might this look like. So T equals big six strategy. So this is kind of my bare bones. This is what I got to teach them when they're, so this is based on your performance task. Okay, this is a big six based on the performance task that, like the third one that they just saw, the performance task. And now I got to teach them in the order that they need to, well, what they need to do before they can actually type. So step number one is they have to do tap plus F. They have to read it and they have to do tap plus F. That's number one, non-negotiable. Okay, number two, once they've done that, now normally in my regular classroom, I would have them do a text feature walk and look at all the text features. But I got to kind of cut some steps out because otherwise they can't do it in 2 hours. So I'm hoping that I don't have to, I'm just going to put a little asterisk here, meaning I like them to do what I call a text feature walk. So just kind of on another sticky note. So this is a sticky note. And also they might have a sticky note that says, I need to make sure I know what are the text features that this author is giving me. Because I'm more likely going to get a question about text features. So I call this my text feature walk. And on a sticky note, I say, okay, let's list all the text features that you see. Oh, there's a diagram. More likely, they might ask you a question about the diagram or about the illustration or about the table. So I'm going to want to make sure that they know all of the sticky notes, that they've kind of taken their eyes to the text feature walk. Okay. Step number 3, they have to read the text. Right? They have to read the sources. Really? Yes. Okay. They have to read the sources. Step 1, they have to read. Okay. I like them to practice the rereading, but that's a hard one because they don't see that as a fix-up strategy and it's time consuming. They don't want to do it, right? Yeah. Like to read it once if they can, and then that's it. But we want to teach them how to reread. Now, you guys, the only way they're going to get that routine of rereading is if we what? Yeah, my kids, here's my, and you guys, here's my number. 3 times. Now, you guys, here's where teachers will go, well, Westerberg, you told me 3 and I can't do it because it's too long. I'm not talking rereading all of it over again. I'm talking reading parts of it to think that I got to teach them. Here's an important part. So we're going to reread this section because that's going to be really important. Okay, so that's going to be also something to getting them to reread as a fix-up strategy. While they're reading on the second time, because really realistically, you guys, kids are not going to reread 3 times on the test. They just don't. But what they are going to make, that I'm going to make them do is I'm going to make them annotate the text. So I'm going to teach them how to annotate the text. Which means you guys have done this with me if you've been with me. This is where I'm going to teach them how to do circle 1, underline a few. So circle 1, underline a few. This is the biggest, it's the hardest, but it's the best because it really forces kids to look at the main idea and to pull text-based evidence.
So do you print all of them for all your kids?
What's that?
Do you print the test for all of your kids?
For the real test?
Yeah.
No, we can't. Not our state, no, they can't print. It's all electronic.
Okay, I wasn't sure because
You guys get to print? Lucky, ladies. No, ours is totally on the computer. So that's why I use release item. So that they can see it on paper first and walk them through this process within a release item, because then I talk hard copy. Because in our state, it's all electronic. Okay, so they're going to annotate the text. Now, here's the deal about this, you guys. I have to teach them the strategy on paper first so that they know how to do it on the screen, right? So you guys, they can't do it. They won't do it on the screen unless we've given them multiple times to practice. Remember, circle 1 is the main idea, okay? So they're going to look at that paragraph and they're going to circle the word that tells them what this is, what that paragraph is mostly about. We're going to circle it in yellow. That's our main idea, okay? And then we're going to underline a few details of text-based evidence that supports the main idea. Okay, so now I'm going to do it on paper, but you guys, they eventually have to do it on sticky notes. Okay, so there's more sticky notes. These are pink when they're doing this. So they know what the main idea is and they got to do sticky notes. I also make them number these because otherwise they're going to not know. I'm sorry, guys, they're not going to know. Let me blow this up for you guys. Okay, so do you see that? They're going to annotate the text. They're going to annotate, underline, and we're going to practice that today. But these support the main idea. Now, few means 2 to 4, no more than that, because otherwise they're going to highlight the whole thing and write the whole thing, and we can't make them do that. This is why I make them be critical thinkers. Of the 4 facts, what are your 2 top, or most critical, or most important for the reader, for your audience? Okay, so we're going to teach them to annotate. Number 5, then after we've annotated the information, because this for you guys is really what I'm looking for as a scorer, is did they support their main idea with evidence from all 3 sources? So now that's the other thing. I make my kids keep track of the sources. Because if they leave out any information from source 3, I can't give them full credit for that because they've left one of the sources out. So I have to make sure they know that all of the sources are in there, all 3 sources that they've gotten. Once I've done this, now they have to note take. And this is where now, usually in my classroom, I go from a tree chart to 2 column notes. But because it's a test taking and I only have 2 hours, I have to eliminate the tree chart. And now they're just doing 2 column notes. So I got to teach them how to plan. So they're taking notes. Number 6. Then they have to plan their paragraph, or they're actually on this one, they have to plan their essay. And I'm going to give them 3 pieces of paper. I'm going to actually show you what this looks like in order to plan their paragraph. It looks like this: a half a sheet, a full sheet, a full sheet, a half a sheet. I'm going to actually have you do it. They're going to plan their essay. Then they're going to number 7, big 6, and I kind of included a couple of these. Then they have to rough draft, kind of 7 and 8 is separate. Now they're ready to do what I call my 7 and 8. Because it's a big 6. These big 6 are going to help them do a really good job and be successful in 7 and 8. So 7 is rough draft, handwritten. I make my kids handwrite because their focus, when they go to the computer now, their focus isn't on the writing, the content of the writing, now it's focused on the actual typing and the using of the computer. So that's why Anita Archer, there's so many people out there in our professional field that are saying, you guys, you've got to teach them to write it first before they go to the computer, because now on the computer their thinking changed. Now they're worried about the computer skills that they're having to do. So they handwrite the rough draft, and then 8 is final typed final piece. Okay, so final piece. Okay, and that's typed. Okay, turn and talk. When you look at these steps, what do you need to do to help your kids be better prepared for the Smarter Balanced Performance test? We're going to look at all these steps. Okay, talk.
I know it started with like maybe and so they just that's and then I just do
Because they're still reading it in their head out loud, right? They're not hearing and like how it actually came out.
You know, throw it out there, but we can't.
And some of my kids will only get 2 notes in theirs, but
Or maybe that's just.
but I do.
Alrighty, ladies, lots to think about. You guys, here's what I'd like you to think about, because it's so close to that smarter balance. It's really this big 6 plan. Really would be good to start thinking about next year, because this can be stressful. Already the blood pressures are going up for you, I know that, right? Anxiety is like overwhelming, and you already gonna want to shut down because it's way too much. This is what I would be working for next year, not this year. So when you look at these 6, pick a couple things that you think would be helpful for your kids, because there's no way you can do it all in the short amount of time that you have before they take the smarter balance. So give yourself some grace, you guys. What can you do that's going to help them? Of all those things, what can you do? Let me show you the setup that I think would be really critical for them, because if they can't do this, they're going to have a really hard time organizing their thinking. So you need 3 pieces of lined paper, 3 pieces, and if you need more, I have more up here. I tried to give everybody enough, but there might not be enough. So you're going to need 3 pieces of lined paper. I'm going to hope this is really going to help you guys get you with organization. Paper number 1, I want you to fold it in half, and I want you guys to tear it in half. Fold and tear. Fold and tear 1 piece of paper. And then you're going to have 2 others. Now I'm going to teach to a 4-paragraph essay, not a 5. There's nowhere in Smarter Balance that says it needs to be 5. So I'm going to shoot for a 4, but you guys, I start with a 3-paragraph essay to begin with my intermediate kids. I start with an introduction, 1 body paragraph to teach them how to stretch those reds, and a conclusion. And they get really good at 3 paragraphs before I move them to 4, and then I never do a 5. I just don't have time, and it's not, you don't have to do a 5 unless the directions don't say a 5-paragraph essay.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
You're saying they have to use all the sources. So that would mean then they would somehow need to combine 2 separate sources into 1 paragraph, because
Yes.
I find it easier just to have them do that third body.
Yeah, no, this is what I do, because I think that, well, first of all, as a score, I'm just going to tell you, usually that 3rd paragraph is the weakest.
Yeah.
So usually that's what will bring their score down, because that 3rd body paragraph, they've run out of steam and they're just writing to write. And I call it puke on paper, by the way, brain death, puke on paper. They know they need another paragraph, but they're so tired, they ramble. So usually that 3rd body paragraph is pretty poor, pretty weak for my B, A, and B kids. I'm already thinking my A are my struggling, my B are my benchmark, and my C are my high flyers. So I don't do that, because usually when I'm scoring, that 3rd is problematic. Now here's the other thing, that's for informative writing. For opinion writing, you guys, in opinion writing, usually their 3rd paragraph is extremely weak with their 3rd reason, and it can really knock their score down much more than on an informative one. So that's why I give you 2 strong reasons, support it, and go. Now, how do I deal with the 3 sources? I have to teach my kids, when they're citing their information, to say in source 1 and 2, the author said. In sources 1 and 3, the author said. In all sources, the author said blank. You see, now I have to teach them to do that in the 2 body paragraphs. That's how I'm addressing that. So that they're not writing more, but they're writing deep. But I have to teach them how to cite. And it's the articles, the name of the article, the name of the sources, it's informal citing, the name of the title of the source, and there's a lot of ways that I can do it, but I have to teach them how to do it to go together. Source 1 and 2, the author said. In source 1 and 3, in all the sources, the author stated blank. We're gonna have to really work on the word said too, you guys, by the way. Because do you hear your kids doing a lot of said? Yeah, we're gonna have to do an ABC taxonomy to help them with that word said, and I'll show you that in a minute. All right, so let's go back to this. Half a sheet. So we're gonna set this up and color code it. So this is the introduction. So let's write TE introduction up here. Okay, here's my introduction. And it's green, but you know, for our, not all of our kids based on the grade level have to do what we call the lead, but I want to always teach my kids, even at 3rd grade, to give me a little lead. But take our green highlighter, because there's gonna be 2 colors now that I'm going to teach my kids. So I'm going to take this green sheet and I'm going to highlight it in green. The whole thing. Yeah, the bottom. Okay, and then the top part is going to be blue. Okay, so now you're going to take a blue highlighter, which hopefully you have blue. No, if you don't have blue, we have some blue up here. Jason, can you grab that for me? That would be awesome. Okay, so the blue is going to come up here like that. Okay, now there are 3 things that I want in an introduction, basic. Okay, so number 1 goes right here. I want the thesis statement. Okay. So I have to teach them like a couple of different options for their thesis statement. Now, these are options that I've already taught them, you guys. I've taught them what a thesis statement looks like. So it's a 4-part sentence. The astronaut, here's an example, the astronaut has many jobs. Period. Okay, there it is. Based on my question, based on my prompt, it might be this. The astronaut has many jobs. There's my, what I call my power statement, because there's a number here. So this tells me this is a power statement where I say there are many things that I know about blank, or there are many characteristics about blank. It's all about the number. 2, 3, many, a few. This is what I call my power statement, because the power is in the number. Okay, so the astronaut has many jobs. It's simple. And then I'm going to give them another example of a sentence, and then they decide which one's the best for them. So I give them 2 that they have to practice writing, but they get to pick one. Now on the Smarter Balance, they just pick the one they like. But as I'm doing this over and over with them, I like to give them a choice. Here are 2 that we've learned how to do. Here's a power statement. Here's a 4-part sentence. You choose the one that you like the best. Okay, that's number 1. Okay, number 2, the number 2 thing that I knew is what I call the plan. Now, Common Core calls it, Standards calls it the preview, but I call it the plan. This means that I have to now have a sentence that tells the reader the 2 yellows. So this is kind of like blocking it out. So what are my 2 yellows? What are the 2 jobs that astronauts have? Okay, so I've got to tell them, you got to have a sentence that really tells the reader what are the body paragraphs that are coming up. Okay, so let's just do this together. What would be 2 potential jobs of an astronaut?
Go into space.
So what they do going to space. You were quick, good job, going to space. Okay, what's another job that the astronauts have?
Conduct experiment.
What?
Conduct experiment.
Oh, conduct experiment. There you go. Now, initially, you guys, I make my kids write a sentence that actually states the 2 yellows. That's called an explicit plan. But sometimes I'll teach my higher levels that you can do an implicit. What there are 2 very important jobs that an astronaut has. Oh, I didn't list them. Or I could say going to space and conducting experiments are 2 important jobs astronauts need to do. Do you see? There's my plan sentence. Now I have 2 sentences in my introduction, because sometimes they don't even know what to write in their introduction. This is all over the place, and they do that in the conclusion as well. But at least I've got 2 sentences here. Yes.
How do you feel about hooks, like as in an interesting fact or a question?
Oh, you're
Especially
so
with
good.
opinion, but I
You
know
are-
This is informative.
I think I planted you here because after your 1 and 2, your 3 goes up here. And your 3 is what I call the lead. Now that's the correct, the name, but you guys, we also call it the hook or the grab. Okay, and again, I have it as number 3 because make a note, they cannot do their lead until they've actually done their rough draft.
Right.
Because I don't want the question that's just the general old question that has no value to their writing. So I don't let them do the lead until after they've done their rough draft, and then we revise it. And I say, okay, guys, you've done your rough draft, but we need to add that lead. Now you know what your thesis is and what you're planning. So now we're going to need to pick the right lead. So I have to give them some strategies. One might be background information about astronauts. So maybe some background information might be good that I give them. What if I gave them some statistics or data about astronauts? What if I added, I make up a quote from somebody? You guys, if it's incorrect quote, I don't care, but if they use a quote correctly, they get points for it. I'm not gonna go research whether the quotes, the test taking strategy, make up a quote and put somebody's name on it. That's what I tell them. It's a test taking strategy now in their own writing, just so that I cover myself on that one. Because teachers will go, I can't even believe you're making them do that. I go, it's a test taking strategy. I want to know that they can do a quote. They can write a quote, but they can write it and put quotation marks and tell me who it's from. In class, if we're doing a research project, they cannot do that. They'd have to go get the quote. But it's a test taking strategy. So make up some things, especially if it's, right on. I'm not going to go check on that. Okay, question, you guys. You guys, I despise the question lead. I despise it, and here's why. Have you ever wondered what it'd be like to be an astronaut? Have you ever wondered what it's like? I mean, their questions are really, really low level. And here's, if you guys teach them a question, which is maybe a good start at 2nd grade, but you got to get rid of them and go with other more important, because I do not want a 6th grader giving me a question as a lead. It has to be purposeful. Give me background information, give me statistics data, give me a quote. I let them do a question, but then I raise the bar. It's a 3-question lead, meaning they have to link those 3 questions, and it's kind of almost like a rhetorical question, meaning they are going to ask 3 questions, but they already know the answer to, but they're linked 3 specific questions that I want the reader to think about that all has to do with astronauts. So now it's a 3-question lead, not a 1-question lead, because the 1-question leads, you guys are pretty low level. They're pretty weak. Am I going to start there? Yes. But get rid of the questions, because most of the time when I see the question, which is a lot, you guys, even at middle school and even at high school, they just can really drop it's the first thing I see as I'm reading. And if it's that, I'm just like, ooh. Like, that's not what you want them to have. You got to raise the bar for that. So use it, but just raise it, or have them pick a DOK 3 or 4 question, not a 1 question, which is just rolled recall. So so I'm going to give them a couple to show them how to do that. And now they're ready to add that to the rough draft. And you guys, what kind of a introduction is that going to be? Isn't that amazing? Okay, so turn and talk. What are you missing in your introduction based on this, on the 3 parts that I need? What do you think?
And see where amplified stories.
And when they get their thesis statement,
This is gonna help them.
they
to
can't
think.
get it.
That's right. That's very now.
Because I give them a bunch of writing practice,
They will
and
help
then you
them
can
with
state it, and then
Yeah,
after,
that's right.
that's what they call it, like.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully this will help your kids kind of stretch their introduction. And you guys, a 3-sentence introduction is like goal, at least. I mean, obviously, the thesis statement can be more than one sentence. By the way, their hook could be, if it's background information, it could be 2 or 3 sentences. So this is how you stretch it, but I want to make sure that those are the 3 things that they have, okay? So now let's take the other half of the sheet of paper and let's highlight it green, because now we've got to work on the conclusion, and I like to work on the introduction and the conclusion together. And usually I do body paragraphs first, and then I do introduction conclusion afterwards. So I focus on the meaty part of their writing, which are the body paragraphs, and then I teach introduction and conclusion. Okay, so now this is my conclusion, and I have to tell you guys, what do you guys think about your conclusions? What are your kids struggling with conclusion? What bugs you most about how your kids write a conclusion? Turn and talk real quick. What? This is. This is what I get. In conclusion, I hope you like my paragraph or my essay about astronauts. I liked it. How about you? And then they know it has to be more than one sentence, so they just start throwing out a whole bunch of things that make no sense. Okay, so you guys, usually in most states, and then specifically for our district, in our state, we get feedback. Now, this is before Smarter Balance, but Smarter Balance came to the state of Washington to get help because our assessment is very much like Smarter Balance. It's set up very similar. So they came to us when they were starting to develop Smarter Balance. It came to our state of Washington to say, hey, how did you do it? But before then, our state was able to give us feedback on what we did well and what we didn't do so well, both on the reading and the writing side. We were really stinky with summarizing. So we spent a whole year in our school working on summaries. We got zeros and 80% who couldn't write a summary. So we got that feedback and we knew, oh gosh, we got to up our game with summary writing. We also, on the writing side, got a lot of feedback on probably our least effective kind of part with the conclusion. We always got that quote back. Need work on conclusions. Very weak on conclusions. And then the second thing that we got was not so much now, but before, was layering in their elaborations or their text-based evidence. That was another kind of big one that we didn't do well. So we get feedback. You guys, the only way you're going to get feedback is you have to pre and post assess your kids. Are you doing that? Are you giving them a pre-assessment, teaching, and then post-assessing and looking? Because if you don't do that, how are you going to know what they can or cannot do? So to me, I'm going to suggest when you start your narrative writing, you pre-assess a narrative story, you teach, you post-assess. Informative, you pre-assess a paragraph, you teach, you post a paragraph, and then you do an essay. And our opinion, you pre-assess, you teach, you post-assess. You're going to have to build in those assessments so you know and they know where they need to improve. And oftentimes you don't build that in. It takes a lot of time too, unfortunately, but it's so worth it for instruction. That building in those pre and post assessments is going to be really important. So I'm going to give them 3 things to do. And I'm going to let you think about 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and 4, 5. What would you keep? What would you not keep? What would you simplify? The first one is to have them write, it's the summary, to write a little summary of their writing. Now, here's the problem with this one. They just repeat what they said up on top. You got to be careful about this one. But that's a good strategy, is to have them summarize the article. That's really what I say is the restating. It's my least favorite because they usually just repeat. That's why I don't like it as well. The one that I like the best is this one. Why is this important? Okay, so I want them to answer this question. Well, why is this important that I'm writing about astronauts? Okay, so turn and talk. Why should we be studying about astronauts? Turn and talk. What might be the potential answers for why is this important? Turn and talk real quick.
We might have to go there.
Okay, but think about all the things. This is where I have to say, kind of be thinking, being creative. Why is this important? We're writing about astronauts because maybe you want to be a what? Maybe you know someone who wants to be an astronaut. Maybe you talk about the importance of being an astronaut, right? Why do we need astronauts in our world? What do they provide us? You see, this is going to really teach them how to stretch that, but I got to give them a question. Normally I would just do this and it was 4 because they just repeat it. So this is a really good question, but you're going to have to practice this and ask the 5 W's plus the question. So you're going to go, well, you're going to question and go 5 W's plus the H question to help them answer this question. Okay, the 5 W's plus the H. This is what you're going to have to maybe ask them to help them stretch that. And then the last thing is to make a connection. And this is what I'd like them to do and make a connection. Either do a text to self connection, a text to text connection, or a text to world connection. Now, normally it's either this one or both of them. This one is a little bit harder for them to do because they've already been reading multiple texts. So I'll say, well, is there anything that comes to mind personally about astronauts? Like maybe you know somebody? And what about text to world? What are we noticing in our world? You guys on the news, what's on the news right now? Astronauts are going to it showed the 3 men and the astronaut from Canada is one and the lady and the other 2. I mean, that's big news right now. So I'd want to talk about that. In our world, we're really using astronauts to help us with research and so forth. All right, so that's the conclusion. Turn to talk. What do you like about those 3 questions? Is that going to help your kids when you think of these 3 questions?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go take a quick 5-minute break. Stand up, move around, go, go, go. 5-minute break, and then we'll do the middle.
But you don't watch TV. I don't either. I watch Steven.
You need anything? Good. Need some candy?
But they're prepping to go next year.
Yeah, maybe some chocolate, yeah.
Yeah, I can find some.
And do some stuff around the moon. On the moon, around the moon. So my kids think they're gonna go live on Mars. Said the robots are building a house. I don't know. There's some greater thing than- I think-
I'm dead serious.
Good, how are you?
Thank you. Where are you teaching?
Ventura. Yeah, it's my fourth year there. Yeah, and plan to be there next year. And the year after. Not really going anywhere. Yeah, I started out with 3 this year. But they're all separate grade levels, so that complicates things quite a bit. And just yesterday, I had 2 new ones show up, and they're different grade levels too. And I'm like, great. But yeah, and then next year we're actually incorporating a preschool program because right now Ventura is like older people that have already raised their kids and they're like having grandkids now, or like kids are, people our age, they're in their 20s and 30s and they're raising kids. So it's kind of a weird shift, but yeah, they've never offered preschool before just because they would kind of filter in, and a lot of them would kind of do homeschool type stuff. But right now we already have 4 or 5 that'll be at preschool. Oh, might as well start them out right. So
Yeah.
Where are you teaching at?
In Mesa.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, we actually just came to Nissa for the spelling bee.
Oh,
weeks ago.
yep.
Oh man, we had to leave at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Oh, this is gonna be an interesting day. Yeah, but they did pretty good. Their attitudes were all right for the most part. The second grade was pretty bummed that she missed her 3rd word or whatever it was. Yeah, but it was definitely interesting picking them up and leaving at 6 a.m. So
Yeah, that's his drive.
yeah.
Am I overwhelming you yet, you guys?
No,
You're doing
this
good?
is perfect.
Oh,
We stay test in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't do this next week, but the week after we
Yeah.
do.
so good timing.
So I've been doing some sample tests. with
Good.
kids, and we're talking through it. and
Awesome, perfect.
One, I've been excited. We got a new reading series, and it's benchmark. And
Oh, yes, familiar.
yeah, the verbiage, the vocabulary, all that, the actual test, like, it had the questions that you were, I was like, actually, like, that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
To be a little bit more prepared just because we've been doing that all year.
Perfect, perfect. That's good to hear. I know,
Yeah, 'cause,
most
like,
of them,
because
I
I
think,
didn't know the questions, and
Yeah.
even though I do the sample stuff, I'm not real sure on
yeah.
how.
What is the curriculum called?
Benchmark? And it's
So, yeah, I'm familiar with like Amplify does a really good job of aligning to Smarter Balance, Benchmark, Study Sync are a couple of others. I think the new version of Inter Reading, which is Journeys and the New Wonders, is doing a better job of trying to connect to the assessment and just making sure that they're aligning their questions, but still, if we don't really know what's in that
Right.
assessment, and I think we've been frightened to death, by the way.
We have integrating the HMH code one,
Yeah,
and we just got it last year, and
how are you feeling about that one?
we're making it through it. I think that it's gonna be really great once I get the hang of exactly, like, utilizing it exactly as I want to, because it's just a curriculum that has so many resources. It's very heavy in that sense.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, okay, are we supposed to do all of it? Are we, do I go this direction? And it's like, for me, teaching in Ventura, like, I started out the year with a first, a second, and a fourth grader. And now I've got another second grader and a kindergartner. And so it's like, and they all kind of have their own needs. And so I'm like, well, do I use this for the student? Do I, So I think it'll be good by like next year. I'll really
Right.
have a sense of how I like to utilize it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's gonna take you a number, anywhere from 1 to 3 years with any new curriculum to really understand it, know it.
Yeah.
So you gotta give yourself time to just really
yeah,
work the
see, like my
program.
fourth grader, this is gonna be his first year of testing because last year as a third grader, his parents opted him out just because of COVID type stuff. They
Mhm.
wanted to make sure that he was ready, but luckily we utilize iReady. And so I feel
Okay.
like that helps him with like the diagnostics
Yeah.
that we do.
Yeah.
He's not as overwhelmed
Yeah.
about doing the test itself. So I think that that's really good, but yeah, we've been like kind of stepping away from some of the writing curriculum and practicing a lot of this material, and then I've been sending homework of like practice samples for the reading questions and stuff.
Yeah,
So
really good. That's gonna
luckily
really
he'll be
help them,
familiar with the format.
which is good. That's, step number 1 is just not having to be frightened about the format. and showing that it's not a scary thing.
It was so cute. I told him, I was like, yeah, you have to do the state test this year. And he's like, I know all 50. I'm ready. And I was like, I wish it was that kind of state
Yeah,
test.
exactly. That was that easy.
Yeah.
All right, guys, ready to keep moving? Let's keep moving. You're needing a lined piece of paper next, because I want to get you through. Oh gosh, there's just so much I need. I can keep you for a month, you guys. Just let you know. It's just a half a day. It's not enough time. Okay, so now I need to teach them how to organize their body paragraphs, you guys. Now, here's the deal. You have to teach them 2-column notes before you do this. You have to teach them. So how many of you turn and talk? Where are you? 1, 2, 3 on 2-column notes. 3, I know it, use it. 2, somewhat. 1, I'm lost. Tell your partner, where are you? Okay, so I want you to leave those 2. It sounds like it's like, do we have any 3s in the room? No 3s in the room. A little bit?
We use it quite a bit. After I took the one workshop, like I've been using it a lot.
Awesome.
Science and stuff.
Okay, so good. So you need more paper because I want to show you what a 2-column notes is first before I show you how to use it in the essay. Because I'm going to use the 2-column notes for a paragraph first, you guys, before I show them how to use it in an essay. So this is for a body paragraph. So you're going to take one piece of lined paper. You'll need more underneath there, grab. Oh, go ahead. That's me. Okay, so you're going to fold your paper first. So you're going to take your left side, your full side. You're going to teach this, so you guys are going to get weird folds. And you're going to find that red margin line about 1 inch away from the right side of your paper and fold it. So the left side is skinnier than the right side. Okay, left side is skinnier than the right side. Okay, so we're going to go across the top and down the crease line. Now this is for a paragraph. So this is the 2-column notes. Which is specifically for organizing a paragraph, okay? A paragraph. So we've got our T equals. There's our topic. What are we going to be writing about? There's our green. This is how 2-column notes looks. This on this side, and I even make them write that this is my key ideas, right? My key ideas. This is where the yellow goes. I know many things about astronauts. One thing I know about astronauts is their education, okay? So this is where their transition goes in the yellow sentence, okay? The transitions go, the Common Core calls it linking words, but they're transitions. That's my yellow. So I know many things. Here's my power statement. I know many things about astronauts, or I know many facts about astronauts. One thing I know about astronauts is how much education they have to have, okay? Does that make sense? There's my yellow, my category, my main idea, my criteria. On this side is what we call our E's. I call them elaborations, but you guys on a smarter balance, I say your elaborations have to be text-based evidence. They have to come from the sources. So TBE stands for text-based evidence. My kids know TBE, text-based evidence, okay? They are my reds, my pinks, okay? The other thing that you need to know over here, which is going to be really important for your kiddos, is what does the dash and the dot mean? Okay, so the dash means significant detail. And the dot is supporting. Okay, so let's think about this. Astronauts, education. They have to graduate, they have to have more, they have to have a college degree. Okay, oh, well, what kind of college degree? Well, where do they get their college degree? So the supporting, how I get my kids to give me the supporting is by asking them the 5W plus the H questions. That's how I get them to give me this dot. Oh, I have to go to school. Who, what, when, where, why? Okay, how much? Where do you have to go? So this dot is this idea of 5Ws. Now, this is what I call, and this is important for you guys to know, this is called layering their thinking, and it's a non-negotiable. They all can do it, you guys, but it's layering their thinking. Even my kinders can do this verbally. So here's an example, even at the kindergarten level. T equals Christmas. Once, oh, you got some gifts for Christmas. There's your yellow. Well, what kind of gifts did you get? Oh, I got a truck. Oh, here's my dash. Well, how big was the truck? What color was the truck? Who gave you the truck? Well, where do you play with the truck? Do you see how kids can layer? I just have to ask the questions for what that dash is. Here's the high bar for smarter balance. I'm looking for layered thinking, not listing thinking. It will show on the rubric. If it's formulaic or listing, you'll drop a point. Kids will drop a point. So you have to teach them to give me a dash followed by what? A dot. That's critical, okay? So those are my pinks. Now for second grade, because I got some second grade teachers in here, I probably would divide this paper in half so they can actually really see that there are two main ideas. Main idea number one right here, and main idea number two. So if I'm doing a paragraph, for my second graders, I'm going to cut this in half and say, this first part is going to be your first main idea, and the second one is going to be your second main idea, because we want two yellows, not just one at second grade. K1, one yellow to start, but at second grade, we now have to start teaching about two yellows. Is that making sense? And then over here is their layered elaboration. Now, it might start like this, dash, dot, dash, dot. But it could change to this, dash, dot, dot, dash, dot, dash, dot, dot, dot. So depending on what the text says, this changes. This can change. It's not always going to be dash dot, but in second grade, that's where I start. Even third grade. Fourth and fifth, you got to have more. Is that making sense, you guys? This is for a body paragraph. So I got to teach them how to do a lot of 2-column notes that look like this. Now, you guys, this is for a paragraph. Okay, and then on the bottom, so that they know, I have to start thinking about what my conclusion is. So on the bottom of it, it's going to say C equals conclusion. So that they now know, oh, look at this, you guys. Sentence 1, topic sentence, because it's not a thesis statement any longer, because it's a paragraph, not an essay. So it's topic sentence, key idea, elaboration, key idea, elaboration, conclusion. So this could be sentence 1, sentence 2, sentence 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is a 10-sentence paragraph. You guys get rid of the 5 sentences. We like to give them a number, don't we? So they only think 5 paragraphs, 5 sentences. The other number I'm hearing is 8. So do you guys give them a number? It's okay. Try not to, if you can. Start with the basic, but then say, hey, it depends on what you have to say and what the text says, because it should be different. It doesn't always have to be 5. In fact, 5 is probably kind of the lower end. More than 8. Yeah, too many. If you get too many, then it's now they're stretching it. It needs to really go to a body paragraph or an essay. So that is 2-column notes. Now, let me give you an example. So that's how it looks. My kids have to know how to set it up. Turn and talk. Does this look familiar? Is this going to be helpful? And I'm going to show you something here on another way to practice this. Pretty important, right? Okay, so let's take another piece of paper and let's fold it in half. Okay, so you got a top part and a bottom part. Go ahead and fold it over to like a T-chart, but we're going to do 2 different examples. Okay, so just go ahead and divide the paper in half, and you're going to have a 2-column notes on the top, and you're going to have another 2-column notes as well down here. You're going to have 2 examples. Okay, so this is just examples. Now I'm going to show you again, these are just 2-column notes. This is how I want you guys to start teaching it. Okay, in phase 1, this is phase 1, the student is the expert on the topic. So you want to practice 2-column notes with topics that kids just know. My school, food, restaurants, games, activities, my family, all sorts of things are things that I'm going to play with for a while to get them to understand what this all looks like. Down here is where we're going to go now to phase 2 and eventually phase 3. Phase 1 is where the student is the expert on the topic. Okay, so I'm going to start practicing 2-column notes with topics that they know and love. Okay, so I'm going to give you one and then you're going to think of some on your own. So there's my key. Remember, on the left side is my key ideas, my star. And over here are my dashes and dots. Okay, so there's my yellow on this side. Remember, this is where I want to see my transition. So I usually put a little thing right here. Remember, this is where your transition goes. This is where your transition goes. And then over here are your text-based evidence, your E's. Okay, so this is over here. These are my E's. If it helps your kids to actually divide this in half, do it for them. Because really, if I get 2 E's for a paragraph, that's what I'm shooting for, not more than that. Because I'd rather them go deep on the red than the yellows. So I know that they're going to come up with 2 yellows, right? 2 yellows. And here's another thing that you need to do based on my observations, you guys. Make sure that this is its own sentence, because what my kids like to do is to write a yellow and add a red to it right away. And so they don't differentiate that this is my main idea and these are my text-based evidence. So make sure that this sentence stands alone and needs to have a period. So I know many things, or Christmas is one of the holidays my family celebrates. Okay, Christmas is a holiday that my family celebrates. There's my topic 10. So let's put Christmas here. This is an example because they know Christmas. Okay, I make them brainstorm all the main ideas. Like, let's think about that. Tell your partner, what are some main ideas or some categories for Christmas that they could potentially write about? Turn to talk real quick. I'm hearing some good ones, guys. So I'm thinking the food that we eat at Christmas. I'm thinking gifts I get at Christmas. I'm thinking the decorations that I get to be a part of, traditions that my family, so there's a lot of things I could write about. So I let them pick two. Let's do picks. Let's pick easy. Well, let's talk about food. And then let's talk about, what do you want to put as your second one? Traditions or activities? Do activities. So I'm going to play with this because they can help me with that. So I'm teaching them how to do that. Okay, so food. What's one food that we get to, that normally we get to eat at Christmas?
Prime rib.
Oh, let's just do that. I'm gonna go to your house. I'm gonna go to your house. Okay, now remember, dot, who, what, when, where, why. Okay, and I start with just two sets of a dash and dot. So there's prime rib, and I gotta say, well, what kind of prime rib? Gotta give me something about prime rib.
It's very expensive. It's a treat. You get it once a year.
Yeah, it's expensive, but it's nice and juicy, whatever, right? Okay, what's another food, you guys, that we have at Christmas?
Well, we do homemade chicken and noodles.
Oh, chicken and noodles. So you could write chicken or noodles. Could you write cookies or gingerbread house? Any of those? Okay, everybody put your second one that you do. Make it, this is personal for you because you're going to teach them through your experiences. I'm going to say another tradition food that we do is Christmas cookies. I'm going to say Christmas cookies here. And I have my dot. Oh, so what could be my dot? It could be the shapes of my cookies. It could be how I decorate my cookies. It could be what kind of cookies. Do you see what I'm doing here? The dot is always something more about the dash, and those are your dashes. Okay, see that? Okay, now we gotta go to activities. So what's one activity that we can, that we most of us participate in terms of Christmas for most kids? What?
Tree.
Oh, the Christmas tree. Oh, who, what, when, where, why? Who helped you with the Christmas tree? Well, what kind of decorations do you put on the Christmas tree? Well, what size of Christmas tree do you have? Do you see all the W's you could ask to have them give you a dot? See, they can give it to you, but you just have to prompt them and give them the question. What's another activity as far as tree decorating? What's another thing another activity? Oh, opening what? Opening presents. I love this one because think about this, you guys. Opening presents. How many presents do you get to open? Where are the presents that you get to open? How many presents do you get to open? Do you open presents one at a time, or is it chaos and everybody opens all of them?
And is it Christmas Eve or Christmas Day?
Yes. Do you see how much I could write about this? Could I do one on Christmas? Could I do one on Easter coming up? Or on Valentine's Day, or on Mother's Day? Or could I do this on, I mean, I could do take with Mother's Day and do, my mom and give it as a present. I mean, I could do a lot of different things. Do you see how you're doing this, you guys? Brainstorming all of the potential categories, but then only choosing two to go deep, okay? This would be, and then again on the bottom, remember, C equals conclusion. What's important about Christmas? Christmas is a celebration that my family does every year, and it's a tradition. I mean, again, just another sentence. So it's sentence 1, sentence 2, sentence 3, sentence 4, sentence 5, sentence 6, sentence 7, and 8 minimum, because then I got to teach my kids, they can either combine these two, a dash and dot, like here, tree decorations or Christmas cookies, or they can do them separate. So a dash can be its own sentence, or a dash and a dot could be one sentence. Do I have to teach them that? Is that making sense? Okay, phase 2. Phase 2 now is where you go to content, like writing about an octopus. Okay, and then determining that. All right, turn and talk. But before you do, take a sticky note, a yellow, another color, And I want you to come up with a list of phase 1 topics that you could practice 2-column notes with that has nothing to do with reading something. So let's come over here and just come up with some categories for your some topics. So I'm going to give you an example. Like I could do my family. I could do a food one. Oh, I could do an animal one. Inside animals, outside animals, zoo animals, pet animals, animals with 4 legs, animals with 2 legs. I mean, I could just do a lot. School, I could do one on. So what are all of the potential things you could do? Games that we play at home, board games, outside games. Okay, so think of a lot of different things where the topics are known by kids. So turn and talk with your partner and come up with a couple together.
And who's their favorite soccer player of all time and why?
Sixth grade.
Shoes. Kids are obsessed with shoes. No, Pokemon is still working. That one.
Okay, listen to my paragraph. And you guys remember, I could go right to what I call my wraparound paragraph, but I don't start there. I start with, let's just write some topic sentences for a while, or let's just write some main idea sentences. It's just sentences. And then I move to a paragraph and I start with strips before I move to what I call on paper, a wraparound paragraph. So this is an example of a strip paragraph. I take out my, okay, get your strips, we should have grid strips, pull them out. We're going to just do a verbal one. Pull out your topic sentence. I'm not going to have you write it, but I want you to see it. Now, look at your strips, you guys, because I have a basket of green strips, yellow strips, and red strips in my room. And so I have a basket or a tub of them already cut out. So when kids go to write a paragraph, they can either, well, initially they have to do it on strips because then it can be a reading activity. I make them mix them up, and give them to their partner and look at order. And by the way, revision is a lot easier on strips than a wraparound because if they make a mistake on one red, they just take it out, throw it away and go grab another strip. They love that. If it's written, it's fired and they don't want to revise and change that, right? So the strips are kind of fun, plus it's just engagement. They love the strips. So I just have a tub and I let my kids write as many paragraphs they want on the strips as before I even get to the wraparound because they love it and it's still organizing it. And they know which ones they need. And it's a visual, our brain, our dendrites are just going crazy with this color and this system. So I actually have a tub that I just have of these already done. However, if you don't have cardstock that you can use, then I sometimes will use just a piece of white paper. But here's what I do. I get those colored dots so that it's white paper with those colored dots that tells them, okay, we're going to work on our topic sentence. Okay, this is my topic sentence. If I had $1 million, comma, I would spend it wisely. So see, there's my topic sentence. So I don't have to do it on a colored strip. I can just do it on white paper if you don't have the money for cardstock. But my kids also love these dots. Do you notice there's a little dot on those? If they were on white paper, I would make them put these colored dots right on those ones so that it's white with the colored dots. So I just go buy the package of those garage sale dots and I just have those. Could you have a dot and just have them color it? No, it doesn't have to cost money, you guys, but coloring the strips is really important. Now, also what you guys have is you have big strips. So sometimes depending on your grade level, sometimes I give the big strips to my second graders and even my third graders. I'm finding my third graders need big strips. The little strip is just too small. So I have these big strips that I give them as well. And I gave some of you of those. So again, here's an example. There are many things you can do to keep your teeth healthy. Oh, there's strip number 1. Okay, first, brush your teeth. Oh, there's a transition word. Okay, well, I got to say something about brushing the teeth. Well, I'm going to have a red. What kind of brush that I need? How often? There's my red. My second yellow is second. You need to go see the what? Oh, well, what do you do at the dentist? Okay. There's my dash, there's my dot. Then I have to have my conclusion. Clearly, it is easy to keep your teeth healthy if you do those two things. Do you see how this is just on strips? So I could take these are done, mix them up, give them to my partner, and now you have to put them back together again. It's a fun reading, but it's a fun writing. These strips are amazing and fun to do. So just wanted to show you lots of different ideas with the strips, how you can do it on white paper and not. Now the strips should lead to what I call a wrap-around paragraph, which I can even color. Arthropods come in two types. There's my what? What color is that, you guys? Let me come over here. So if they're writing, been studying about arthropods and they've been using their strips, then it should do this. There's my yellow. Oh, I make them circle. This helps me. The first type is what? Oh, guess what? There's my yellow sentence. And then I better have a red, right? Spiders have 2 body parts and 8 legs. Now, I'm going to start here by showing them it only has, well, it has an and sentence. There's my pink. Then it says another type is what? Is that, what color is that, you guys? How do I know?
Transition word.
There's my yellow. And then what should follow? And then what does it end with? These two categories of bugs may look alike, but are really very different. And you guys, 2 out of 2 every single time. You can get them to do that. Is it doable?
Yeah.
And for my 3rd graders and up, I would need to have another dot on these reds. So it really needs to look like this. Green, yellow, red, red, yellow, red, red, green. That is going to get a high 2 if they have it, because you really want them to layer those reds. And so you have 1 green strip, 1 yellow, 2 reds, dash and dot, another yellow, a dash and dot, and then a conclusion. So this idea of color coding is huge, you guys. So going from 2 column notes, 2 strips to this is the succession that you need to do. Talk and turn. How much time is that going to take? Is it doable? What's going to cause me to not do this? Turn and talk real quick.
Yeah, no, not.
Okay, you guys up here, let me show you. Sometimes I'll even go backwards. The other thing that I think we need to do a lot more of, especially when we're in the informative genre or our opinion, is getting kids to color code. They need to be color coding, seeing what it needs to look like before we make them write. That was something I was not very good at. So transparent moment. I would do a lot of assigning and not necessarily show them a model or show them what I needed them to do. That was my problem. But remember, 30, 20 years ago, I thought I was the worst writing teacher ever. And I knew I had to do something different in order to be a better writing teacher. So I worked at it really hard. But initially, I would just assign it, and I didn't have any really system. And then I'd get frustrated that they didn't have what I'd asked them to put. Have you ever been there? Please tell me I'm not alone on that, you guys. Right? Yeah. Get frustrated because they don't do what you told them to do, and yet I probably didn't tell them or break it down enough, explicitly enough, which is really my fault, not theirs. So sometimes, you guys, I will work backwards. I'll make a note. I'll work backwards. I'll show them a paragraph and show them, now let's 2-column note this. So let's look at this. Our topic is what? Arthropods. So that's my green. So now I've got my first type is, so what's my first yellow, guys? Spiders. And what what transition did I use? Or the student use? First. So I'm going to put that right here. Okay, so now I'm moving back from what I've actually written so that they can actually see, well, how did this student write that great paragraph? So then we're going to come over here and go, well, what was the detail that they said? The spiders have what? Now notice this, you guys, it's important. Do not let them write a complete sentence. 2 body parts
dot. They gotta give me something about that. And then they said what? But this student didn't give me a what? A dot. 2 body parts. Well, what are the names of the 2 body parts? 8 legs. How's that different than maybe insect? Or whatever, or another insect, okay? That's something to think about. Insects versus something else as well. So those are my reds, right? Okay, so we know that this student, we're evaluating somebody else's work, right? And now we've got another yellow. What's another yellow, you guys? Insects. Spiders are different than insects. Insects have 6 legs, spiders have 8, right? So now we've got our second yellow and we have another transition. What's the transition, you guys? Another, so we're gonna write that. So we start by showing them some models of one before we actually have them do it. Is there power in that, you guys?
No.
So much power in that. And then we're gonna say, well, what did this student say? He said what? Insects have what?
3 body parts.
3 body, and you don't want a complete sentence. You just want words and phrases. 3 body parts. And what? And there's no dots. So that's just missing on this one. And then we have a C equals. What did he say about C equals? They're very what? They're different. They are different. So now you guys, I've taken a paragraph, color coded the paragraph, and then showed them how this writer actually organized their thinking before they wrote. All right, turn and talk about that strategy. Paragraph, moving back to 2-column notes. Turn and talk. What do you think about this strategy of doing a paragraph and then going back, color coding, and coming back and doing 2-column notes?
And they got it in the right color box.
Do any of you guys have separate writing as a resource in your building? Yeah. Oh my gosh, you guys go grab their examples and do this with their examples. Just go grab them. That's a great resource. Sometimes not all paragraphs have the system of green, yellow, and red. And so then I have to tweak them and change it a bit because sometimes they're weak. But Step Up has a lot of great examples that you could actually pull one of their ones like this and actually go back and do 2-column notes on. So that's what I would use. Step Up has just got a great resource for that. It's a great resource for that.
You said phase 2 on this one. So the first one is the student is the expert. So phase 2,
Oh.
can you just tell me what that's supposed to be?
Very good. Good question. Okay, you guys, good question on what phase 2 is. Remember phase 1, I'm going to start with phase 1 of instruction, where they're just going to practice. Their focus is on the strategy and the topics are student led, right? Because my focus is on the strategy of 2-column notes. When I go to phase 2, now I want to kind of up the bar a bit, and I want them now to apply 2-column notes to text, to what I call mentor text. But there's a hint here. They're still pretty new at 2-column notes. So what you want to do with phase 2, Chris Cervani, who is a great educator, secondary teacher, but teaches across the United States, she's fabulous. She talks about phase 2 of instruction, and she calls it accessible text, especially for our struggling kids. This is where they're going to choose the text that's low lexile level, because I don't want them to struggle with the word. So low lexile level. So if they're 3rd graders, pick something at 1st grade or 2nd grade level for them to start reading now and applying the 2-column notes to. And it needs to be high interest. So kids are connected, engaged, so high interest. So in phase 2, I'm going to get those, National Geographic level 2 books and lower level so that they're now reading, but it isn't so hard because a lot of my kids were not benchmark. Most of my kids were below benchmark. So I had to start somewhere. That's phase 2. You guys, phase 3, make a note. Phase 3 now, kids have had multiple practices on 2-column. Now phase 3 is grade level text. So phase 3 is now grade level text. Phase 1, no text. Phase 2, lower level text. Phase 3, grade level text. Usually we go right to what? So I worry when we look at our amplify and benchmark, all of those are so difficult for kids. And yes, we need to give them strategies on how to attack a difficult text. What about those kids who are just not there?
Yeah.
Not there, aren't gonna do it. We're gonna lose them. So that's what you want to do with phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. You want to really work on that. Okay, now you guys, let's go back to our 2 sheets of paper because now we're good. Now we got to apply to an essay. So now we're back to our 2 sheets of paper for our essay. Remember we did on our essay, we did introduction, conclusion. So now I've got to work on the body paragraph. So if my kids know how to do 2-column notes, this is going to be a piece of cake. So you guys fold in, not in half, but on the line, the margin line. So you have 2 sheets that are going to be 2-column notes. You guys, what's really good about this? Next year, we're focusing on opinion writing. This is the same strategy I use for opinion writing too. So if you are practicing it for informative, it's going to be the same strategy. The words are going to change, but it's the same strategy. So that's a win right there. They don't change up my strategy for opinion writing when they're planning. Okay, so you're going to go across the top and down the bottom. And I don't do anything on the bottom. I just go all the way down. It looks like that. Do it twice. Do it for both your sheets. And down. Okay, so now we're talking about body paragraphs right now. Now, this is the assumption that kids know what 2-column notes look like. It's going to change a bit though, okay? So this is body paragraph. And I put a line here because I got to ask them after we get them done whether this should be the first body paragraph or the second. So order of importance is really important, especially in opinion writing. Order of importance is a big dog. Like, do I start with my strongest compelling reason or do I end with my strongest compelling reason? Or do I start with my weakest? There's a lot of different strategies. I like to end with my strongest and start with my least strongest, okay? So I'll say body paragraph, this is either gonna be 1 or 2. I leave it blank. Go ahead and do this on the second one. Body paragraph on the second one, because I'm gonna do 2 body paragraphs. And a line, okay, so I know I'm gonna start with the first one. So I always put T equal just to remember what they're writing about. So whatever that is, let's say, astronauts. So I'm gonna put astronauts again, because we're gonna read about that. So just to keep them so that, that's what my focus is. But when we go to the bottom part, what I found, you guys, just because I researched and did so much, if I did an essay like this, I had them do body paragraphs like this, what would happen is as soon as kids got to this line, if you think about this, this could be a body paragraph, right? But it's a pretty weak paragraph, right? Because it doesn't have a whole lot of pinks. And this could be another body paragraph, but this is better. But what I found is when kids got to the line, their thinking stopped. So they would write 2 things and they ran out of room and they would stop. And then they would come up with their next yellow and they would do a couple and then they would stop because they were out of room. So I had to kind of figure out a different way to get them to go deeper in their reds. For 2nd grade, you guys, you could do this for an essay and do 1 piece of paper. So 2nd grade teachers, where are you? You could do this for a little baby report, paragraph 1, paragraph 2. You could, because you don't have, yours doesn't have to be that deep, right? For the rest of us at 3rd grade, I want you to try and do it this way. Remember, this is our key idea. So I make them label these parts. This is my dash, my E's. But right now, because we're in Smarter Balance, these have to be text-based evidence. It has to come from all the sources. Okay, now the other thing that you might need to be aware of, I want you to kind of dash this over here, this red line that you can see over here, kind of dash it. Okay, so now over here, body paragraph, this is my yellow side, let's highlight. And then over here on this side is our dashes and our dots. There's our E's, our text-based evidence. So there's going to be one yellow on this side. Education is going to come over here. Remember, that's one body paragraph. I'm going to write to another student who wants to be an astronaut. So education, you might need to know what it's going to take to be one. So education. So I'm going to say one thing that you need to know is how much education it takes to be an astronaut. So there's my yellow. Okay, it's only one yellow, but now what I want them to know is this is the deep that I want them to go. I want them to use as much room as they need. So dash dot, dash dot dot, dash dot, dash dot. So they keep thinking based on the sources, right? And all of this information would be in the sources in some way. So that's the other thing. I know that I'll be able to find information because if I can, it's not a good question. And I want to show you guys how to layer. The second grade, I probably wouldn't do this, but maybe you would if you're a second grade teacher. I'm going to show you what I would do if I was at least a third grade. Now, remember, you guys, how many sources do they get? 3. Okay, and they can be a variety of different sources, from a narrative to an informative to a video to an audio. If there's 3, so sources 1, 2, and 3. And this is where I have to help them. So this is the body paragraph, sentence 1, and then all of the elaborations that follow. In here is where I would say, tell me where you found them. So this is where they're going to cite their information. I found this in source 1. I found this in source 1 and 2. You see how I'm asking them to really tell me over here where they got it from, which source they got it from. This came from source 1. Now tell me what's wrong with this. You're going to see it. Source 1 and 2. Source 1, source 1. What's wrong? No 3. Okay, so this is a way to help them make sure they have all information from all 3 sources. Okay. All right, now that's one body paragraph. Is that making sense? Oh, that's planning 1. We're going to do another body paragraph. So not only the education, but what was another yellow that we needed to do other than education? Research, or yeah, let's do research. What kind of things do they research? Again, then you're repeating. And you're doing the very same thing that you did in body paragraph 1, dash and dot, dash and dot, dash and dot, dash and so forth all the way down. Okay, is that making sense? Okay, now you have to tell me what body paragraph would go first, what body paragraph would go second. So now I got to look at my 2 yellows, you guys. I have education and research. And I'm talking, and my audience is a student. So should I start with education and end with research, or should I start with research and end with education? Turn to top, what would you guys do? Personally, you guys, I would put education as body paragraph 1, and I would put research as body paragraph number 2, because that I want them to end with, oh my gosh, think about all the important things they do. See, in my mind, I would go, that would be my second. Am I really looking at that in informative writing on the smarter balance? Not as much, but on the opinion, I am. I'm looking for order of importance. I'm really looking at that as well. Okay, you guys, now look at what you guys have. This is what's so cool about this. Even if I stopped right here and all we did was planning, look at what I've done. Okay, ignore me. Introduction. Body paragraph 1. Body paragraph number 2. And conclusion. Now, you guys, sometimes this is all we do, and they staple it all together and put it in their folder, and we do another one, and then we do another one. You're not ready to go to a rough draft yet, because why? You have to practice this. So this is why my kids get 3 pieces of lined paper for the Smarter Balance, because guess what they get to do? They got to plan their essay out first before they ever write their rough draft and type. Turn and talk. Turn and talk. What do you like about this system?
So I think it's something that comes up. Right. I've also printed on the graphic work I'm doing from substitute and has it already on it.
Start by trying to.
Yes, they have to. Yes. So it's definitely. And I like
I know you guys are tired. Are you tired? Like, whoo? Like, are you like over the top? I'm gonna give you just a couple of things that hopefully you can just kind of sit back and watch. There are two things that I want to give you before you leave today. I'm gonna try to get you up 15 minutes early as well. All right, so we've been talking about strips. We've been talking about paragraphs using strips and then essay and planning out the essay. One of the things that I do before I have my kids do essay is I set up what I call an essay, my essay collage. You guys, my kids love this. I do this all the way up through 6th grade, 7th grade. I think I even did it with a 7th grade group. So here's a project in which I go by, I have all my sentence strips and I go by the little pockets here, and then they're still doing strips, but they're giving me, oh, your 3 sentences for your introduction. And now their introductions on 3 sentence strips. So then they put their 3 sentence strips here, they're green. And it's all not right, but it's on strips. And then they're going to give me their transition sentence. I know many things about astronauts are important. Then my yellow, oh gosh, astronauts have to have a very specified education for their job. And then, oh, we're going to elaborate. What are my 2 sentences for my elaborations? And then I have another yellow sentence. Do you see how kids can do this on strips? They love it. It's not the same as writing an essay, right? Not the same. So this is,
Yeah.
what?
Can I take a picture?
I'm gonna leave this out because I've got a couple of different ones I want to show you. And then I always say, oh, I'm just so excited. Those are on white. Blue, here's your lead. What are you gonna do? You're gonna do a question lead. You're gonna do a background lead. What are you gonna do? What's your conclusion? So this is strip 1. Okay, so I just wanted to show you, animals is a big one. So I could actually do one on animals. You can see I've taken these around, but again, it's the same thing. Now I give them the yellow. Well, which animal are we going to be writing about? What's the food? Yellow, red. What's the habitat? Yellow, red. What's the enemies? Yellow, red. Appearance, yellow, red. Conclusion, green, blue. Your lead and what your 3 sources. So you can even do something like this. Okay. You can even tell that we're all just going to research an animal. That's one way. The other thing that I did, again, another research, same thing, but for 2nd grade, what do you notice about the 2nd grade one? There's only what? Super easy.
Yeah.
See, so this is differentiating. And at 3rd, 4th, and 5th, my kids who can't yet do it, start here, not just my 2nd graders, but my 5th graders who are not at the level to do more than that. I did this with specifically with a project with my grandson who was in 4th grade, and he even went beyond. Look what he did. He actually had a beautiful cover page about elephants, and then we went and bought some fun little pockets, and we did the strip idea. He got an A+ on it, well, of course, because Mimi was working with him on it and showing him how to do 2-column notes and strips and all that, and they were going like, "Who taught you how to do this?" Mimi did. But you see what a great project, and it's in strips. I'm telling you, engagement increases big time. So this is another project you guys could do maybe this year that helps them with getting the organization. To me, you guys, organization is where it's at. Even if I don't get to the essay, it's going to be better because I worked on what? Organization and idea. So I'll leave these at the end as well. There's one other thing that you have to know how to use, because I actually heard some of you say this is hard. So when you get the DAW packet, I'm going to show you how to help your kids with revision. Find this packet, and then we're going to close everything up so know you're ready to be done. And after me close up, you guys can come take pictures of of my little folder. Okay, so this is an activity called, it is specifically for, okay, so let's name this. We're gonna see you've got some examples in here as well. And you guys, there's a lot of extras, so write all over this and you go get a clean one over there if you want later, okay? So there's one clean one and then there's some blank ones that I want to show you. Okay, so here's how I teach revision. So this is called the paragraph evaluation form. I love it. Paragraph evaluation form. That's the strategy for revision. Okay, now revision is different than editing. Revision is moving things around, taking things apart, subtracting, editing. It has nothing to do with perfectness. Editing is being perfect. So that's, you got to separate out those two steps. Now, I want you to make a note. Only do this with one paragraph because it's a killer. It takes time. They love it, but I would never make them do this with all of the paragraphs. I'd only make them do it with one body paragraph. So make a note, one body paragraph, because it's a lot of work. I'm hoping by doing it with one that will transfer to their second. Now, some kids like to do it, but I don't expect it. One's a lot. So here's an example. By the way, we had read Dex, the heart of the hero, and I had them write a paragraph about Dex, who is a dog. This is a real life student sample of what one student gave me about a body paragraph. See if you can relate. Dexter ran a lot. He really ran a lot. He ran and ran. Clevis laughed at him. The other dogs left him out. Does it look familiar? Pretty low level. So I'm going to tell them, and I usually can just find theirs to do this with. I try to pick a little bit lower level so that we revise together before they revise their own. So this is how I'm going to do it. First of all, I want to know how many sentences are in your paragraph. That's going to be important. So would you count the sentences, please? How many sentences do you see? How many? 5. Okay, draw a line there. We have 5 sentences. Now, it doesn't matter now, but when they do it again, if they're always doing 5, that's an issue, right? So I know I've got 5 sentences here. Okay for now, but we might want to go back and say as we revise. So now we're just going to evaluate and then we're going to go back and revise. Okay, so the other thing I want them to do is I want you to write the first word in every sentence. Okay, so we've got Dexter in one, so you guys write the first word in every sentence. So what do you guys have? Okay, so this is where I say strong, weak or strong. Strong, is it a 3 meaning very strong, a 2 okay, or a 1 pretty weak? What do we notice about the words in each one of them? We have a repeat, don't we? Have he. So there's 2 he's. We got to get rid of some of those he's, right? We don't want pronouns. I don't know who he is, by the way. So we got to maybe change those. So we'll say, is this a 3, 2, or 1?
2.
I say it's a 2. Let's put a 2 right there. 1 over here, we don't know because there's 5. It may be later on, it might be an issue. Okay, now we're going to look at our verb. Now, you guys, we want to pick out the verb in every sentence. Now, some of them are going to be to be verbs. Is, was, were. Our kids use a lot of to be verbs. We got to get rid of them. But let's see. Dexter ran a lot. So ran. He really ran. Another what?
Ran.
He ran and ran. Another what?
Ran.
He, Clevis laughed. Oh, there's another one. So then now I can have them think about some higher level words. And then the other dogs, what? Left him out, left, out, left, we'll go left, left, out. Okay, there we go. Okay, now let's talk about this. Is this 2 things to think about? Repeat, lower level words. So is this a 3, 2, or 1?
1. We just ran way too many times.
So I got, it's a 1. So I know I have to kind of maybe work on that one. Now let's go to the number of words at this end. Would you count how many words are each in each sentence? Okay, do you have 5, 4, 4, 6? Okay, so 3, 2, or 1, tell your partner. I mean, it's almost like a 1.5. It's not like, oh. Why would I almost want to give it a 2, but I don't, because why would I not want to give it a 2? It's really what?
You have 4.
And they're all about the
Same.
So you guys, we want, in this one, in order for it to be a 2, we want some long sentences, we want some short sentences, we want some simple sentences, we want some complex sentences, we want a simple versus complex, we want a variety. So based on that, this is really a what?
1.
A 1. I'd probably give it a 1 because it's pretty much all the same, except for maybe 6, because that's a little bit longer. But actually, that's sentence number 5 is the best, right? It's actually the best. Now we're going to go over here to the wow words or the content words. And this is where we go sentence by sentence. Is there any wow words that I can put in the wow column?
No.
Maybe one. You don't have to-
Maybe a second grade, maybe laugh, but that's maybe pushing it, right? Probably, so this is a 0. It's very weak. Okay, so now you guys, you've just evaluated a paragraph. You want them to evaluate other paragraphs before they evaluate their own, right? That you don't go to their own. And then I usually have to white out names because you don't want to, I mean, I have lots of examples that I use, but you really want them to do it on their own. Now I'm going to say, now guys, it's time to revise your paragraph. And this is my rule. You only have to change one thing in each column. So when I teach my kids to revise, I say change one thing in each column. And that's all they have to do to raise it up. Again, they don't have to change too much, but if they just would change one thing in each column, that's going to improve it. So, okay, guys? And
First sentence.
well, per row, per column, in each column. So let's look at this. So in sentence numbers, now I need to improve this. So what do you think I'm going to do? I need to probably add one more sentence somewhere. Okay, so that's one thing I'm going to improve in this one. In my sentence number box, I'm going to add one more sentence somewhere. Okay, and maybe add 6. Okay, you guys, I need to change one of these. Which one should I change? He. So I'm going to change this second he, and what should I say? I don't want to say Dexter again. I could say the dog, the super dog. I'm going to say the super dog. Maybe I'm going to start there and think of a synonym for that. The super dog ran and ran. Okay, so I'm going to just change one thing. Okay, now come over here. I like to use a different color, so I like to say orange so that they know I'm going to change. This is one thing I'm going to do. Here's my orange. Here's one thing I'm going to change. Here's my orange. Okay. Now I got to come over here. I got to change the verbs. There's the thing. I'm going to change one. So which word am I going to get rid of?
Ran.
He ran a lot. I might keep that first one and might change the what? Okay. So I'm going to highlight that. And instead of ran, what I'm going to say, I got to think of a higher level word. How could I change that out?
He never stopped.
Oh, I even like that. He never stopped running, but I could say instead of ran, what's the synonym of ran?
Darted.
He darted. What's another word that I could possibly use other than darted? He sprinted, right? So now I'm going to get rid of that word and think of a synonym just to start out with to get that to be a little bit higher level. Okay, now over here. So I've done my one thing. I've added a sentence. I've only changed one of my first words. I've only changed one of my verbs on my sentence number 3. And now I have to think about that. So we set it to 1. So what am I going to do? This he ran, he really, well, this one would have to go. He really ran a lot. Really?
That's your, he ran and ran.
I meant he really ran a lot. Whichever said, I mean, it should have been number 5. Well, anyway, picking whichever one and changing that. I want that to be a little bit more complex sentence. So I'm going to make them rewrite sentence number 3. 1, 2, 3, he ran and ran. I need to write it, maybe come up with a different way to write that. I can't say he ran and ran again. I'd have to change that sentence. So then I would say, guys, I want you to change this sentence and give me a more complex sentence that has maybe 7 words in it. Okay, so now this is going to be a 7-word sentence. And then I need to add at least one wow word. So tell me, you guys, what wow word could I use in this paragraph about Dexter the hero. What?
Excluded instead of left out.
Yeah, so what sentence is that? There you go. Just one word would be huge. I'm just gonna give you a hint for vocabulary. I'm gonna change up my rule. What I really want in the wow are 3 high-level words. That's really what I want. So this one, I really want them to think of 3 higher level words that they want. So I really would like them to pick 3 different sentences that they're going to raise up by using a very high academic domain specific vocabulary. And they're ready to run. Do you like this one? Pretty fun. Okay, and I gave you a clean one that you can practice on. I have some other ones like on the page. I've done some others if you want more, but here's the blank one that they would do. They would use how many sentences in their paragraph. They do the very same thing with their own paragraph. And then there's some information on how to use this. All right, turn to top. What do you like about this for your students? And we're going to finish up, you guys. I promise. It's a lot
Well,
more.
make them aware of how they're writing.
Especially.
You're tired, right? I am too. That was a lot. Sorry. You guys had, again, I could keep you for a whole day. You had some other things that we didn't get through. Would you please keep all these things and make sure they come back the next time? Now, let me tell you what's going to happen starting in July. In July, it's going to be a half-a-day training for you guys, and we're really going to be working on opinion writing. But I still want you to bring all of this stuff back. So if we do have time, I can show you some great strategies within these actions. Okay, so come back. July is going to be a half a day at this point. It's going to be virtual, which is not my favorite, but it will be a half a day virtual. And then I'll be meeting with you 2 or 3 times during the year to continue working on opinion writing. That's how it's going to work. If this is your first time with me, I hope this means you'll come.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So beneficial. All right, 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna make this really easy. I want you to look through all your paperwork. I want you to think of what are 2 things that you're going to take back and use immediately. So look through your things, how you partner with 2 things you're going to use, and then you may leave. Thank you guys so much. You were awesome. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Go ahead and think about what things you're going to use or do.
But they can't see their own.
Somebody else's event. Go back to the smarter balance stuff too, you guys, to see what you're gonna use the smarter balance as well. Because that's another thing that we actually use. Okay, once you've done that, if you would clean up, just leave all of the highlights on the table. We will be collecting the highlighters. Some are mine, some are now here. So just put all the highlighters in one pile at your desk. We can put all of the sticky notes in one pile, and we can put all the extra paper in one pile. That would really be helpful, you guys. Have a great spring. I hope I'll see you guys in July. Take care, you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.